We're going to get into that. Now, part of the reason why I started early today is because there's a lot of news to cover, but also because Ro Khanna's coming. Ro Khanna's coming over, which is probably not something that you ever thought you would hear on this broadcast, but Ro Khanna will be in the building in a little bit and in an hour. And we're going to be talking about the Jeffrey Epstein stuff quite extensively. As you guys know, he's as you guys know, he is one of the main Democrats in Congress that has been leading the. I mean, he goes everywhere. That's true. Yeah. He does go everywhere. But live early, Ro Khanna in the building. Epstein to talk Epstein files and next steps. Epstein files release flop as Trump is redacted. TPUSA drama turns ugly. Clandestine drops anti-Semitic alt. Hogwatch. And more. Get in now. Rose coming to your house because he wants your support when he announces his candidacy for the presidency. Hey, listen. All I'm saying is, if you don't treat me better, I'll do it. Are you going to give a critical interview, or are you going to just hang out and talk Epstein? I mean, we'll talk about a bunch of other stuff too, but it's mostly going to be about Jeffrey Epstein. Thank you, Themasius, for the playlist. For your title, it's Khanna with 2 N's. It is. It already has 2 N's in the title. Anyway, Candace first because girl, please. I mean, I covered Candace a little bit yesterday, but it is pretty crazy that she... So Ben Shapiro called out Candace Owens for being anti-Semitic and a conspiracy theorist, and I fucking despise Ben Shapiro. Obviously, as you guys know, part of the reason why I despise Ben Shapiro is because he literally made Candace Owens, and it's this weird situation because, like, you know, I think I go back and forth on this because, like, from an American domestic politics perspective, they're both horrible, right? They both believe in pretty much all the same shit, except on Israel and on anti-Semitism, right? Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens are identical in their worldview in virtually every single thing. But the place where Candace Owens actually comes across as a more popular figure or has like the moral position is Israel. However, what's guiding her Israel position is anti-Semitism. And the place where Ben Shapiro is supposed to come across as the more moral, more coherent person is anti-Semitism. But Ben Shapiro is very pro-Israel. So this is a unique predicament. And the same goes for the entire, like, Tucker Carlson and all these other people. This is not a defense of Tucker Carlson or Nick Fuentes or Candace Owens in any way, shape, or form. It's more so to tell you that, like, they have morally repugnant worldviews that are damn near identical. And yet, for some reason, liberals look at this, with the exception of, people in this community we watch obviously from afar, and we're enjoying the explosion, the implosion of right-wing infighting, the ideological differences at play here, and the sharks that are out because there's blood in the water, and everyone is trying to basically take advantage of the void that Charlie Kirk kind of left here a little bit, and the additional media attention that's come in the direction of Candace Owens and many others. Some people are jealous. Some people want to take on that mantle as like the top dog in the right-wing commentary sphere. It's perfect. It's everything I could have ever wanted. Didn't get the link again. Can you please send? Yeah, you got it. Don't worry. How likely is that Trump is going to try and get himself on $1? Probably. Massey is terrible on everything except Israel. Please don't ever platform Massey. I mean, this is what I mean. It's like Thomas Massey is another great example of this, where, like, I do think he's sincerely anti-Israel. I think he's sincerely anti, Jeffrey Epstein. And he has played a much more important role, in my opinion, in the release of the Epstein files than even someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene has, right? So these are weird allegiances that are forming. I don't think these are long-standing allegiances. This chat is filled with TikTok leftists. What the fuck are you saying, platform Massey? I know, there is no platforming a congressperson. Everyone is being stupid about that stuff. I don't really care about that. Having said that, though, yeah, look out. Hassan might give Thomas Massey clout. I know. Having said that, though, there is this strange new boundary specifically being built around Israel. But what's interesting about the boundary around Israel is that it's not like a single issue that doesn't touch anything else. As a matter of fact, it's one of those things that is all encompassing in very meaningful ways, partially because of the pro-Israel contingency and how much it has embedded itself in American domestic affairs. Because this isn't like if I was running around, I don't know, talking about one angle, like even if I was, let's say I'm like anti-Ukraine, right? And there are plenty of these guys out there who are like anti-Ukraine. They think, Russia should just take over, yada, yada, yada. There is not a lot of conversations you can have beyond just making your case for why you're anti-Ukraine, why you're pro-invasion of Russia, or why you think America shouldn't give any aid, render any aid to Ukraine whatsoever, right? But the conversation basically ends there because the advocacy groups are not as aggressively involved in meddling with domestic affairs. The advocacy groups are not as there is no censorship, for example. There's no censorship demands coming from Zelensky that comes out and goes like, Mr. President, they are talking shit about Ukraine, you must make sure that they are fired, Like that doesn't happen. There isn't like a Ukraine pact that demands fealty, There is no there's the Votnik soup guy, but there is no stop anti-Semitism version of Ukraine. There is no stop anti-Ukrainianism or something, right? It doesn't. A lot of anti-Semites in the chat reported, I already banned him. You guys are still fucking on it. I personally banned him immediately. Okay? The reason why I bring this up is because, the reason why I bring this up is because it's, obviously a more significant part of, domestic affairs than other foreign policy issues are. Even though foreign policy, of course, is foreign policy almost always has domestic impact, right? So the reason why I say the Israel thing is a little bit different is because of the way that pro-Israel advocacy groups have embedded themselves deep into the orifices of American society, and oftentimes portray themselves as Jewish advocacy groups. Almost always portray themselves as Jewish advocacy groups. And this has created a unique environment. Obviously, one of the things that we are going to be talking about today is the Epstein files. And one of the ways in which I think the Epstein files are relevant and significant, one of the major ways in which they are obviously relevant and significant, is around Jeffrey Epstein's affiliation with potentially our intelligence community, CIA, and also the Mossad, the Israeli spy agency. And yet, mainstream coverage around that has almost always been either completely omitted from the conversation, or when it's even covered at all, like the NPR coverage around it, is presented as an anti-Semitic conspiracy, right? To which I said, one must wonder why any kind of suggestion that Epstein could be an asset for Israel as well as the U.S. is only referred to as an anti-Semitic conspiracy in mainstream media, when there are thousands of emails between Epstein and the former prime minister of Israel, and there's very little coverage on this on mainstream media. This is yet another one of those moments where I think this is yet another one of those moments where the blood libel or anti-Semitism allegations. Sorry, dude, but now I care far more about how people in our actual government were related. Vassal states are secondary to that. Wait, what? No, my point is Israel doesn't operate like a vassal state. Do you not understand the broader point that I'm making? That's it. That's the issue. When you have American media, okay, American legacy publishers refusing to cover this connection between our intelligence community and the Israeli intelligence agencies with a man who is seemingly the most infamous person in American news right now, Jeffrey fucking Epstein, being the connective tissue there. And that connection is never brought up. And the only times where it's ever brought up is to disparage and to basically say this kind of this kind of connection is simply anti-Semitic. This kind of connection that you're making is simply anti-Semitic. We will not cover the deep ties that Jeffrey Epstein very clearly had to Israel. We will not cover the ties that Jeffrey Epstein had with the former prime minister and other Israeli spies and things of that nature, even though all of that is clearly being discussed in independent media because Jeffrey Epstein's emails are out there for all to see. And that people fucking say that this is anti-Semitic. It's crazy. What is AU? AU interviewed Bibi? Who's AU? Bibi on Australian news talking about Palestinians? Oh.
It's that simple.
Why do you think?
Here's Representative Thomas Massey. Epstein had close ties to our own intelligence agency and Israel's intelligence agencies. That's why they're trying to stop this.
He is working so hard not to get them released for so many months. What do you think the real reason is?
These files implicate billionaires and friends of his and political donors that he's trying to protect. And Epstein also had close ties to our own intelligence agencies and Israel's intelligence agencies. That's why there's so much effort in trying to stop this. And I do believe they'll try to stop it somewhere else. And that's going to backfire on them too.
So the president.
So that was there's two different angles here that are obviously very interesting. Number one, after a joint initiative from Thomas Massey, who we just saw, okay, and Ro Khanna and numerous other congresspersons that pushed for the Epstein Files Release Act, which got so much public pressure that it actually caused even the Republicans to say, all right, fine, we'll release the files. And Donald Trump actually signed it, right? They were forced to release the Epstein files yesterday in accordance with the law, except the law was very clearly designed to ensure that some of the things that the DOJ did not happen at all. For example, the heavy-handed redactions that the Department of Justice lawyers engaged in directly contradicts the language of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, which directed the DOJ to provide internal communications regarding their decisions. Not only did they actually hit the heavy marker, the heavy black ink marker, and we saw hundreds and hundreds of pages. According to the BBC, over 90% of the files were redacted. We still haven't even seen the entirety of the files at all, right? And there were instances where, like, there were some publicly available photos, for example, that were redacted as well. Do you have any idea what they would put the image of MJ and Diana Ross with their kids? That's Paris and Prince Jackson, MJ's kids, and Diana with her daughter. The unredacted photos public on the internet. That could have been an accident. That could have been a mistake, or they could have made it so that it looked worse for Bill Clinton or something. But it's very obvious that it was like it was very obvious, as I called months ahead of time, that they would just simply dangle some red meat in front of the base by saying, look, Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton, Bill Clinton. Don't look at Donald Trump. He's not in any of the photos. Don't look at Donald Trump. Donald Trump was not in the files at all. Donald Trump was not related to Jeffrey Epstein at all. And they went through and basically hid every single instance of Donald Trump with the exception of one photo that they missed. Okay? And the reason why we know that they absolutely heavily redacted Donald Trump is partially because there were plenty of photos of Donald Trump that the House Oversight Committee had actually released from the Epstein files. Okay, ahead of time. None of them were in the fucking Epstein files. Okay, and this photo, file 468 from the Epstein files that includes Donald Trump, has reportedly now been removed from the DOJ site release per Oversight Dems. So we found this photo on stream, and we realized when we found this photo that they had forgotten to redact Donald Trump in this photo because he wasn't the main thing in the photo, right? Because he was in the actual cupboard, in the actual drawer, they forgot to redact this photo. So this is one of the only fucking photos in the entire Jeffrey Epstein files where they forgot to remove Donald Trump or redact Donald Trump. Only because it most likely slipped past the AI detectors, or it most likely slipped past the 200 different Department of Justice auditors and lawyers that were looking at this, because it was in the cupboard and you can barely see his fucking face. Now they deleted this photo as well. They took it out of the fucking Department of Justice release after people noticed that they had failed to redact one of the photos of Donald Trump. It's like they're trying to look guilty. It's so fucking insane. And we know this not only because of the discrepancy, but we also know this because Todd Blanche, former Trump defense attorney Todd Blanche, current Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, sent a statement to congressional Republicans in which he admitted that not only had they redacted 1,200 victims from the Epstein files in order to preserve and protect their identities, but they had also redacted the names and identifiers in the same exact standards applied to the victims of politically exposed individuals and government officials. Yeah, from the Epstein files. During one of those encounters with Epstein, he took her to Mar-a-Lago where he introduced her to its owner, Donald J. Trump. Introducing the 14-year-old Doe to Donald J. Trump, Epstein elbowed Trump, playfully asking him, referring to Doe, "This is a good one, right?" Trump smiled and nodded in agreement. They both chuckled, and Doe felt uncomfortable, but at the time was too young to understand why. And the suspicion is maybe they didn't redact like all of the mentions of Donald J. Trump, but instead redacted the mentions of Donald Trump. But it's pretty crazy. It is pretty fucking crazy that they were so heavy-handed and so incompetent that they fucked it. They fucked it up again, as I told you they would. And now they're overcorrecting and deleting with a heavy hand whatever mentions of fucking Donald Trump even exist. Part of this is because obviously there is an overwhelming amount of data here, and it's very difficult to just, I guess, even with the months and months that they had. Thank you, Chatter. This is a beautiful drawing. I love it. At least you didn't make me look bald this time, so respect. Are they incompetent, or is there a Q leaving breadcrumbs? No, man, they're fucking incompetent, okay? They're incompetent. Never rely on the Democrats to actually do the right thing and fight back. Always expect the administration to be incompetent. Always. What is this? Is this photo real, not a joke? What? No, I don't think this is real. No, it's not. It's not. Don't be mean. MAGA cult is waiting for new instructions on how to defend child sex trafficking. But the thing is, like, people have seen these files. Khanna's seen these files. I'm going to talk to him directly today in about half an hour. And Thomas Massie has seen it. One of the major things that Thomas Massie said yesterday that I thought was very important was, by the time Friday rolled around, if they did not have 20 to 25 co-conspirators, men that were outed as engaging in illicit acts alongside Jeffrey Epstein, that would imply that they actually redacted the names of all of those co-conspirators. And we do not have 20 to 25 names right now. You see, you feel me? And the only place where we know the same number 25, the only reason why we know that the 25 number, aside from Thomas Massie, was mentioned was in the Ghislaine Maxwell court deposition, or the court filings for Ghislaine Maxwell, where in the court filings that they did not redact, they say there were 25 co-conspirators. There were 25 co-conspirators who got separate deals. Okay. So obviously, very clearly these guys just went in with the heavy black ink pen and just took out every mention of Trump and Trump affiliates and maybe even like other super wealthy people. Okay. Every day that goes by as like the Alex Joneses of the world actively try to defend the Trump administration and like the QAnon guys try to fucking still hold on to a crumb of hope for Donald Trump being the pedophile destroyer is another day where they are further vindicated in their initial suspicion that there is this like deep state elite pedophilic cabal taking place. And it's so funny that they literally ran on that. That was their galvanizing principle. That was what they organized around. The notion that there are like elites that are engaging in illicit sexual acts. And there is this deep state pedophilic conspiracy. And now that there is more evidence to suggest that maybe it's not a conspiracy theory, but it could be real, every single person that ran on that is turning around and going, no, but actually Donald Trump is not a part of the cover-up. It's not. He's not. Please don't say it. Please don't say Donald Trump is part of the cover-up. Don't. That's not the case. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. It's like you got everything you wanted. You're getting proof, more proof than ever before, more proof than just whatever fucking dumbasses made up on 4chan about how like, elites are actually ordering child sex slaves like they're ordering pizza by using code words. That wasn't the case. It turns out they were just straight up saying it. There are pieces of the court documents that came out where Jeffrey Epstein is mad that one of the people that was trafficking minors for him was actually trafficking people over the age of 18. He just straight up says, I need to see identification to make sure that this victim is under the age of 18. Like that's how flagrant it is. That's how open it is. There's no like cheese pizza, hot dog mentions or anything like that. They're just straight up being like young child now. It's crazy. Why couldn't it be both? I mean, the reason why it can't be both is because there's no evidence for one, and there is a tremendous amount of evidence for the other. Okay? So, as I said, as I called initially, that the Trump administration was going to try and dangle red meat in front of the base to try to get them to focus their attention on Bill Clinton, who is a known co-conspirator of Jeffrey Epstein. They did. They redacted everybody except for Bill Clinton, okay? They redacted Donald Trump from the files. They redacted other financial elite from the files. And the only person that they seemingly did not redact that was a politically relevant individual was Bill Clinton. Okay? Now, will this actually succeed? Read my logs. Basketball. What? Basketball stream tomorrow. Read my logs. Okay, take an hour off, chatter. I can't play basketball any longer. My ankle is fucked up. The other thing that I also said was that they would absolutely fail to do this because they would somehow fuck it up, and they did. And the way that they fucked this up now invites even more scrutiny. It makes them look even more guilty. Okay? So that's where we're at. That is where we are currently at. The two different angles that are, the one angle that the media is covering is the fact that Donald Trump and his DOJ very clearly eliminated mentions of Donald Trump, including going back in after they released this, deleting this fucking photo from the Epstein dossiers. Oversight Democrats called it out. Yesterday, we found out that one of the few mentions of Donald Trump, one of the few images of Donald Trump in the Epstein files was this photo. Today, the photo is gone. Why would you do that? You're so fucking stupid. Why would you openly engage in this? Why would you delete mentions of Donald Trump after the fact, dumbass? You look even more guilty now. It's out in the open. That's so crazy. Here it is. This photo, file 468 from the Epstein files that includes Donald Trump, has apparently now been removed from the DOJ release. Attorney General Pam Bondi, is this true? What else is being covered up? We need transparency for the American public. It's so crazy that they did this. Like, it's so crazy they got called out. And instead of just like letting it sit there and be like, no, what are you talking about? See, of course we didn't redact Donald Trump. They chose to delete it, dude. Are you fucking kidding me? Always assume the admin, this incompetent admin will find a way to fuck things up. it's kind of them just saying, like, fuck you, lol, we don't care. Yeah, except you can't entertain that. You can entertain that when you got, Reagan numbers, but you can't entertain that when you don't have Reagan numbers. When you have Trump 2 numbers, you can't be fucking running around and being like, what are you going to do about it? Yeah, we're not giving our own base this information that they desire after running on delivering this information to our own base. Fuck you. There's no way. They're going to go crazy over it. They're going to lose their minds over it. This is going to piss off the normies, as I've already told you. Okay? And I need you to understand something. This is Trump's least popular position with his own base of support. Republicans have never really deviated away from Donald Trump on any of the issues. Usually, it's 80% approval on virtually all of his policies, with the exception of this. On the Epstein files and the mishandling, Republicans have a 54% disapproval rating on Donald Trump's handling or mishandling of the Epstein files. 54%. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, it's just only a marginal majority of Republicans that don't like this. That's crazy. You need to understand that needs to be compared with the 80% approval for everything else. Donald Trump's been fucking up everything else, okay? And yet Republicans seemingly are still on board with everything. They still show 80% approval, 80% approval, 80% approval, no matter what. Even Asmongold took Trump's dick out of his mouth on this one. Yeah, because he's fucking seeing the tea leaves, okay? That's the other thing. Just like with Israel, Asmongold, who spent the last 2 years consistently complaining that I and many others needed to be deplatformed because we were anti-Semitic terrorists, has now turned around and is like defending Puka Nakua and saying like the primary party responsible for anti-Semitism growing in America is Israel. It's like, bitch, that's my take. You called me a fucking anti-Semitic terrorist for that for 2 years. He went from demanding that every college campus protester get deported or fired or thrown in fucking prison or something to saying, well, we really got to deal with this Israel shit. Yeah. Asmongold is backtracking his support for Trump and Israel as their approval nosedives. Despite a year of daily praise, Asmongold now claims he never trusted Trump. And he says protecting Israel is America first, despite prior calls for protesters to be jailed. Protesting Israel is America first, despite prior calls for protesters to be jailed and deported. And I love that this guy says 1 year from now. Actually, guys, oh, no, never mind. I thought there was a defense of Asmongold. There are people that I've seen defending Asmongold being like, well, he changed his mind. No, he didn't, you fucking idiot. Last week, he was still saying, I'm the primary vector of anti-Semitism growing on this platform. My opinions didn't change. His did. One must ask the question, why? As a matter of fact, even when a shit ton of people in my community, after October 7, were like, fuck you, I don't want to hear from you. I can't believe you wouldn't immediately say, like, these guys are, barbaric, super rapist monsters and have no emancipatory need here whatsoever. And how dare you say this is, Israel's responsibility after 75 years of apartheid and genocide and ethnic cleansing. Everyone that left this community realized perhaps I was right and they might have been fucking wrong. Asmongold 100% spent the last 2 years going after every single person, every single fucking person that called out Israel with maximum intensity. He aligned himself with Ethan Klein. He was one of the major advocates for deplatforming. And I kept calling it out. And I said, how is this free speech? How is this free speech? How is this free speech? And now that Donald Trump is losing his motion, losing his momentum, he is slowly going to back away. Okay? And I told you this already. I told you this from the start. His subreddit was partnering with the ADL. Partnering with the ADL to deplatform people like Morgan, deplatform people like myself, deplatform other pro-Palestinian content creators. And now he's over here talking about partnering up with Nick Fuentes, an actual anti-Semite, while simultaneously taking a stronger stance against Israel. So what changed? Did Asmongold's mind change? No, of course not. He's a fucking grifter. And I promise you, even tomorrow, he will still turn around and say Hassan is actually an anti-Semite and he needs to be banned, while simultaneously going based on fucking Nick Fuentes clips praising Adolf Hitler. None of this matters to him. None of this matters to many in his audience either. They just want, they want to get W's. They want to get a victory on what they have perceived is a political opposition that's like ruining their lives, making the platform of Twitch more woke, right?
Isn't it time for Asking to stop sucking Trump's dick? I mean, I've been very critical of Trump regularly. If you
I told you when the winds turn, he's going to stop saying, yeah, based. Did I not?
you look at any of my commentary discussing things that he's done, you'll see that I'm extremely critical of him, even more so recently since the Epstein stuff. So this is just, it's again, just the typical Reddit, one-dimensional thinking, because, you know, you couldn't vote for Kamala Harris. If she was going to do something, she would have. So, yeah, you didn't even vote? Of course I didn't vote. Why would I vote if I don't feel like the candidate represents my viewpoints and my values to a degree that I feel confident voting for them? And I think that I've been proven right. I have been. I think I've been proven right with that. And I voted for this? Yeah. I mean, if I had known he was going to do this, I would have voted for him. I would have. Like, I 100%. I didn't vote for Donald Trump, but if I did, I would say that I voted for this. This is better than watching. I've been waiting for this to happen ever since BLM. This is what I voted for? Well, I'll tell you guys, how many of you guys that voted for Trump, you're getting even, it's even better than what you would hope for. You know he wrote this. Yep, this is what I voted for. Yep. To Iran, support for the Houthi terrorists must end immediately. Beware, because America will hold you fully accountable and we won't be nice about it. Hell will rain down upon you like nothing you have ever seen before. What I voted for Trump to do was like what he did with the DEI stuff on day one. What I voted for him to do is what he did with, like, for example, Iran. You didn't vote? Yeah, exactly. But I would have voted. If I would have voted, that would have been what I voted for. Did Trump earn your vote by now? If I could go back.
Yeah, this doesn't even do the amount of glazing he did / justice. Yes. This is not even a fucking fraction of the glazing. I mean, every fucking day. Yeah, based. Yeah, based. Yeah, based. Every time, every single fucking time, dude. He went nutty mode. He was blowing bubbles on Trump's dick every fucking day. Not only did he blow bubbles on Trump's dick, I mean, he openly stated it too. Aside from the Epstein stuff, Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do. Maybe there's too many crying Karens on social media, so they're afraid of the optics. But this seems so dishonest. It won't work either. The bridge is burned, and those people will always hate them. Okay? I voted for none of this. Prominent influencers, including Theo Von, Joe Rogan, Andrew Schultz, are trying to distance themselves from the president. He thought there was more farming to be done on October 6, 2025. So he was still standing. But I promise you, the point is going to come. The day is going to fucking come where he's like, oh, yeah, Trump is not great. Not great at all, actually. Not based. Guys, Trump was not based. Never liked him. Never liked him. Yeah. This is why I always say, like, it's unimaginably easy to fucking grift to the right. They are so stoked to hear someone go, the president that we voted for is awesome. Okay? And because he doesn't have any sort of like ideological conviction beyond owning fucking libtards or whatever, okay? Beyond owning libtards and assuming that it's like liberalism that's responsible for video games being destroyed somehow, okay? That he doesn't have a real stake in this. If tomorrow his audience was like, that's a bridge too far for me, I'm done with this Trump shit, why the fuck are you still glazing Trump? He would magically overnight change his opinion and then make it seem like he actually had a sincere change of heart. That's a grift. That is a grift. Now compare that to my advocacy over the course of the past 13 fucking years. Public advocacy on issues, not on candidates, not on politicians, but issues. Issues first. And these are the motherfuckers who try to act like I'm a grifter. Doubt it, Asman always goes against the chat. He is at the mercy of his community. And if you can't see it, he's at the mercy of the broader sentiment expressed by his community. 100%. He bans dissent in his chat. He rarely ever tackles people who have serious disagreements. I fucking yell at right-wingers in here that come into this community. I yell at leftists that come into this community with regular frequency that try to do the like holier than thou, woker than thou shit. I'm pretty open about my positions and have been for a decade plus. Okay? There are tens of thousands of hours of advocacy that you can tap into to see where I'm at. You're simply coping. He's a grifter and a fascist piece of shit, but we should remember this man might single-handedly bring back the bubonic plague. The plague is spread. Okay, dude. That's it. Realistically, even if Trump released the files, unless it condemned him and other elites, many people would say it was edited and fake. I watched his comments on Ghislaine today. I didn't get the impression he was considering a pardon. Why are people saying this? Again, wrong. They're saying this because he implied it. They're saying this because his own personal defense attorney, Todd Blanche, who is now the deputy attorney general, went and floated that idea. Okay? You just really can't stop thinking about him, huh? Rent-free and everything. Sad, very sad to see you come to this. Yeah. Asmongold has talked more times about me on his broadcast every single fucking day. Demanded my deplatforming. I've never even demanded Asmongold get deplatformed. Sucks to suck, bitch. Numbers on the board. Asmongold has a 100-to-1 ratio to my commentary on him versus his commentary on me. You could say it's delusional. Facts are still facts. This is projection. It makes you feel bad in the off chance that you see me covering Asmongold, especially because he's doing a serious attitude shift right now because he smells that there's blood in the water, and you can cope all day. But if you look at Asmongold's YouTube channels, versus my YouTube channel, what I choose to actually cut from my stream and post on my YouTube channel, for every 2 videos on Asmongold that I do as the largest political commentary person on this platform now, botted or not botted, doesn't matter, versus how much he talks about me, there is a major disparity. Okay? Bro just learned word projection yesterday. He's testing it out. Yeah, exactly. Ad hominem incoming. Yeah. You have no counterfactuals. This is an ad hominem. Bro went on a whole fake campaign against Twitch just to try and hurt us on. Exactly. And now he knows the ship is sinking. And as I fucking said over and over again, when the ship is sinking, he's going to pull out. He's going to be like, yeah, I like Trump for the anti-immigrant stuff, but this Israel stuff is not for me. Okay? And I said this already. I told you this. He went from defending Donald Trump trying to deport Mahmoud Khalil for participating in anti-Israel protests on Columbia campus to now talking about how the number one spreader of anti-Semitism is actually Israel. It took 2 years, but he's there now.
In time and vote for him, I absolutely would. I did not think that he was going to go this hard at all. Is it time?
We have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites on our platforms. 1,000. Feature them publicly, clearly, and with evidence.
I might be misremembering, but I think you said you DM'd him on Twitter about how he's wrong about that. I did. He was spreading so much misinformation about the Mahmoud Khalil case, specifically about what the Constitution protects and what the Constitution doesn't fucking protect. I told him directly, I DM'd him directly, and I said, Asmongold, you are wrong. The First Amendment does protect citizens and non-citizens alike. Okay? It's expansive. He really wasn't. You are just delusional. Wait, what? Asmondad was a Hassan fan? He really wasn't. You were just delusional? I don't know why you're bringing up Asmondad in this conversation, especially in a way that is like, that makes you look delusional. I have no issues with Asmongold's dad. I even reached out to Asmongold at the time to offer my condolences. I don't want to talk about Asmongold's dad. It's not relevant in this conversation at all, but I promise you, you're the one who is saying weird random shit. Not only are you fighting an internet battle for a person that doesn't know who you are, but now you're also just like bringing up totally random things that do not favor you at all. Yeah, we love Asmundad in this community. Rest in peace. Anyway.
We have featured more than 1,000 anti-Semites on our platforms. 1,000. Feature them publicly, clearly, and with evidence. The results speak for themselves.
The evidence, by the way, is like maliciously edited clips and things like that. Everybody who's part of the America First agenda should view being listed on this website as a qualification to run for office. If you get listed on this website as being an enemy of the goals of Israel, then you are actually America First. Like, you can't say this about Palestine, you can't say this about Israel, and somebody who's an activist for this is going to be criticized in this way. It's ridiculous. They try to dox, mislabel, defame, slander, and misrepresent anybody who goes against their interests, and then creating a chilling effect across the entire country to prevent negative discourse about a country.
Asmongold collab with the ADL to try to get me and others deplatformed for criticizing Israel. For the past 2 years, he supported every Trump initiative on this for days, for virtually every single day. Virtually every single day for the last 2 years. He has demanded that I get deplatformed. Others who are anti-Israel get deplatformed, consistently called him anti-Semitic. Here, the most insane version of events, is the fucking Sabra Hummus Gate. Okay? Sabra Hummus Gate. Asmongold did a fuck ton of videos. Talking about how anti-Semitic all of the people that participated in the Sabra Hummus thing were, and how they must be deplatformed. And his community ran with that like crazy. All the while, they were calling Nick Fuentes based. He also bragged about getting game devs fired for tweets he didn't like. Exactly. These guys are major fucking hypocrites. His community was upvoting the fucking ADL. Hassan's anti-Semitism visualized. The head of the ADL on CNN claiming Hassan's extremist rhetoric radicalized a DC shooter. Last week, Asmongold, without any evidence whatsoever, connected an anti-Semitic hate crime conducted by ISIS affiliates in Australia back to me and my community. That very same week, he talked about how base Nick Fuentes was for saying Adolf Hitler is awesome. Do you understand? Do you understand how fucking insane that is? The ADL is putting pressure on Twitch again. It's time for Asmon's harvest again. #1 farmer in Twitch. Damn. And that just after Hassan's claim that his radical viewpoints don't cause any negative PR for Twitch. Yet here we are again. This is Dan Saltman, and he's the one who's leading the charge against Twitch's double standards and anti-Semitism culture. Literally Dan versus Dan. The ADL can be ridiculous at times, but in this case, he's 200% right. Hamas Diddy Piker is openly propagandizing Terry organizations and recruiting people to become Terrys themselves. He's no different than your garden variety extremist imam strapping bomb vests to brainwash guys. He's on your dick right now, per usual. If he's on my dick, he could at least talk to me, but he can't. Because he is terrified that there are those in his audience who also don't fuck with Israel now, okay, or never really fuck with Israel, who would call into question whether or not he is a sincere political actor. He is capable of presenting himself as this like honest guy by living in filth. Every one of his fans goes, oh, he obviously doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about money. He still lives in this like filthy home, right? So clearly he's like honest, not realizing that you can live in a situation like that. And that's marketing, I guess, to a certain degree, when your position, your worldview is inconsistent. You look to someone like myself and you go, oh, Hassan is a socialist, but he dresses nice. He showers daily. He has a nice home to live in with his family. Okay. And it's clean. Obviously, that's hypocritical. Look to my output. Listen to my words. My positions on things do not change. You're caught up in the aesthetics of it all.
They only have the power that you let them have. And so if you see something like this happening, you can just simply get enough people together and then make it stop happening. But AIPAC pays them so much, you have to get a lot of people together. Yeah, it's by the way, that's going to happen. It's going in that direction, and they can't stop it. People don't want their country run by a foreign power. And I think that it's snowballing very, very...
Yeah, he's too scared to talk to me, So he talks about me in an environment where he can control the narrative, in an environment where he can easily lie. Because anyone that actually goes into his chat and goes, hey, you're wrong about this actually, here's what Hassan actually said, instantly banned. Whereas when Asmongold's fans come in here, I actually enjoy having a conversation with them, and I would totally have a conversation with Asmongold. He's the one who's ducking me. He's the one who unironically refuses to have a conversation with me. He's the one who's worried about having a conversation with me. He won't even watch the live stream when I'm talking about him, when he knows. Why would he ever talk to you when you offend him every time you mention him? Do you think that if we had a conversation where, first of all, offend him every time you mention him, what's more offensive? Demanding that I get fucking deplatformed because I'm a terrorist, or saying objectively that this person who has presented himself as not showering daily doesn't shower daily? What's more offensive, you think? Because one is an opinion, a very negatively framed opinion that actually is inviting financial harm and sometimes even actively saying that the government should take action, or in moments where the government has taken action against someone like myself for, advocating for positions that he apparently now holds as well, saying it doesn't go far enough. That's not offensive. That's not mean. That's not fucked up. But me saying Asmongold doesn't shower, something that he personally has admitted to over and over again, that's offensive. The soy right have no fucking consistency here. Both are not good. Brother, do you not see the fucking difference here? I'm not negatively framing something. You think it's negative that he doesn't shower, okay? And you're upset that I'm mentioning something that he has mentioned. That's a part of his brand. I like how both of you are talking about each other right now like kids. Again, very silly. We don't have to do this back and forth. He's the reason why this is a back and forth. We can talk to one another. I have always stated, anytime, any place, that I am willing to have a conversation with Asmongold, and I will be respectful. He's the one who runs away from it. So if you have an issue with that, go ask Asmongold why he has an issue with it. Okay? Go ask Asmongold why he wants to talk about me, but not to me. You play victim. Again, I'm not doing that at all. I'm the one who's saying I'm down to have a conversation with him directly. I'm not playing victim. I'm not a fucking victim at all. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit that Asmongold has called me a fucking terrorist over and over again, especially because now he's crawling back to the Israel is a dangerous entity that has unironically warped American politics so disastrously positioned. He's saying it himself now. So what happened? The reason why he doesn't want to talk to me is because his viewpoints do not hold up, because they are fucking inconsistent. That's the reason why he won't have this conversation. That's the reason why he's always running away from these sorts of contentious conversations.
Very fast.
That Mahmoud Khalil is removable under the Secretary of State Marco Rubio's assertion that his continued presence and his actions in the United States actually compromise foreign policy and political priorities. That's very stunning, because that is actually the only thing that she ruled on today. She did not rule on the other allegations that were raised by DHS, that he allegedly misrepresented information on his green card application.
None of that matters. It doesn't have to matter. Like, they can just deport him for whatever reason they want. That's what the rules say. I said this at the beginning. Everybody was getting mad at me for saying this, but like, it's a fucking fact. Yeah, that's what the rules say. That's fucked up though. No, it's not.
What I do is revoke visas, and it's very simple. A visa is not a right. It is a privilege. People apply for student visas to come into the United States and study.
That's right. Get the fuck out, bro. Get them the fuck out. This is what I voted for. It's crazy that left-wing people have gotten flanked so bad that this is now a position that they have to fight against.
Is that what Ms.
What happened? Yeah, I did. I already added him. I said the rats are escaping the sinking ship. Asmongold commended the ADL when they were getting pro-Palestinian CC's deplatformed for criticizing Israel for the past 2 years. He supported Trump deporting Mahmoud Khalil. Now he's trying to pivot to an anti-Israel position. Is there any solace knowing that the winds are changing in roach infestment basements? Yes, there is some solace there. I will welcome everyone with open arms. Okay? as long as they arrive at the correct side on this issue, it's great. My fear, of course, isn't necessarily that they will arrive in the anti-Israel position, but they will arrive at it by, the Nick Fuentes perspective. They will turn around and say like, yeah, fuck the Jews rather than fuck Israel. Okay, that's my fear. My fear is that a lot of the anti-Zionist sentiment turns into anti-Semitism rather than a sincere criticism of Israel as a foreign entity. Okay,
Stork did. We're not going to give you a visa. That what she did? Come on, Mr.
Look
Secretary.
how mad he is. I think he hit his enraged face.
He did. Come on, Mr. Secretary. And every single one of these cases, the factors are different. Senator, the bottom line is, if you're coming here to stir up trouble on our campuses, we will deny you a visa. And if you have a First Amendment applies to people living in the United States, and we're going to do more.
It shouldn't. If I could go back in time and vote for him, I absolutely would. I did not think that he was going to go this hard at all.
He states that talking to you would be a waste of time. His community tries to cope by claiming he's little broing you and not dodging you. I know. It's because it's parasocial, okay? It's parasocial. It's incredibly parasocial. They want to save face. Asmongold wants to save face, and the people that openly say they love Asmongold also want to save face. You both strawman each other and it's depressing. Okay, then tell him to have a conversation with me so I can have a sincere debate, to have a normal conversation where I understand where he's coming from. The problem is he's the only one who doesn't want to do that. Anyway, Congressman Khanna is here, so I'm done talking about fucking Asmongold. Okay, obviously there's a, more serious subject matter to cover. Anyway. That's a whiplash inducing statement, huh? Hold on. Hey, what's going on? Okay. Let me see where the chair is. Hold on. Hey, what's going on? Hassan. Love the belt buckle and the fucking shoes. Okay. There it is. Okay. All right, that's good. And then here we go. Okay, very quick. Okay. No super niche office chair for the guest, man. It's not super niche nor an office chair that is super niche at all. Here it is. DOJ releases. Here, I'll start this off.
President Trump did not address Friday's long.
After months of delays, the Justice Department now beginning to release hundreds of thousands of documents from its investigation into sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. But this morning, despite a new law from Congress requiring DOJ to release all its Epstein files by Friday, that's not going to happen. What's being released now, sources tell us, is less than half of the files. In this initial release, never-before-seen records from the investigation. Thousands of photos.
Welcome.
Nice to see you and your
Congressperson Khanna in the building, everybody. All right, so yeah, it's a SM7B. I'm sure you've done a lot of these before, so you got to speak directly into the microphone.
I got you.
Welcome. This is your third time on the stream.
But the first time in your studio.
Yeah, the first time
ever.
Which is
all in like Christmas holiday spirit. I didn't know that. I didn't know you had the Christmas spirit.
Yeah, I'm I waged for many years I waged a war against Christmas as a Muslim American, and I decided to give up on it. I'm the most I'm presenting myself as a lover of Christ because I feel like the environment has shifted quite a bit.
Well, Christmas is a great holiday.
I love it.
Who doesn't like Santa Claus and Nutcracker and the Christmas Carol
or gift giving
and gift giving?
It's commodity consumption. I love that.
I mean, I'm a big. I mean, I grew up celebrating. I'm of Hindu faith, but it's. I think it's one of the great times.
I think Americans have nailed it on how to do holidays because everything that they do revolves around getting the family together, eating a lot of food, watching something on TV.
You're American.
Well, yes. Well,
you refer to it as a third person
sometimes because I did grow up in Turkey. My whole family is still in Turkey, so
I just don't want to give quarter to Trump or something here.
No. I know. I'm an American citizen. I was born here.
Yeah.
I'm an anchor baby, so. for now, my citizenship is not called in the question, even though it gets called in the question all the time. Laura Loomer constantly
she hates me. She hates me.
Yeah. Oh, she's gonna lose her mind today. Then
it's like two of us. Oh my gosh, she's probably gonna say that Qatar is funding this.
Yeah, of course.
Every tweet starts out with Qatar is funding it. I mean, doesn't matter whether you're going after the generals in the military or whatever. Yeah. That's like your standard line.
Every time I'm like, Qatar, please fund me. What are you doing? You know, I'm out here. I'm waiting for the money. No, I'm just kidding. This is obviously a very important day, as is every other day. But thank you for coming on today. We're going to be talking about the initiative that you and Thomas Massie were championing in Congress.
Championing. We're not giving up.
And still are championing that had a very unique moment yesterday. Do you mind talking about the act for those that might not know what it is? Also, do you want anything to drink?
I'm good.
Okay. Good. I'm gonna grab a Diet Dr. Pepper for myself real quick. But while I'm right here, you explain it.
Well, look, these are over 1,200 women who, as young girls, were raped or abused. There was a rape island that Epstein had set up. And rich and powerful men, powerful politicians, powerful business folks would go to this island, and either they would rape these underage girls or they'd be standing by as you would see paraded there a 15-year-old, 14-year-old who would stick out as a sore thumb. And everyone knew they were underage, and they did nothing. They covered it up. Or they trafficked in women who may have been 21, 22, but they paid for it and abused them. And what we want to know is who were these rich and powerful people? And how do they have such a hold on our government that they prevented prosecution and investigation? One of the files that came out yesterday showed that there was someone who complained to the FBI in 1996 saying that Jeffrey Epstein had photos of 12 and 16-year-olds being nude. And the FBI said nothing, did nothing. Why? No. Who are these people? So Thomas Massie and I passed a bill. I mean, I can go through how Herculean it was. We had to overcome Trump. We had to overcome Johnson. We had to overcome skepticism in both of our parties. We had to overcome the Epstein class, the billionaires who didn't want this coming out. But we persevered.
The New York Times editorial board that was like, "Hey, let's not do this." Actually,
yeah. I mean,
so many outlets in mainstream media, so many editorial boards in major legacy publishers were just like, "Hey, now let's not release this stuff." Actually,
you know, they called me. They kept all these journalists who kind of like my economic policy and me, think of me as a serious person. Said I'm a conspiracy theorist because I was leading this. And they'd say, "Oh, how's your friend, the vice president? He and you are both conspiracy theorists." I don't know what happened to the vice president because he was the one who was out there saying we should release these files. Suddenly he's gone quiet. Anyway, Massie and I, we overcame all the establishment opposition. We forced a vote. We got 70 Republicans to break with Donald Trump and say they were going to vote for us. We flipped Donald Trump. He ended up endorsing our bill and caving to the Congress. We got 100 senators. Schumer had to introduce my bill in the Senate for unanimous consent a week after I'd called on him to step down from the Senate. So we got the whole process working. President signs the bill, and this means they've got to finally release the files. And then we see yesterday, they don't release 90% of what they're supposed to release.
And what's interesting is, from what I understand, you were aware that this could potentially happen, right? So there was language in the act that Donald Trump signed into law that specifically detailed certain things that the Department of Justice could do, including if there were any sort of significant redactions, they had to walk through exactly why they were redacting. And from what we understand now, there were over 200 Department of Justice lawyers that went through and engaged in significant redactions. The BBC's estimation was that apparently 90% of the files were redacted, somewhere along those lines. Hold on. Kaya.
She's hungry?
She is she's hungry for love, but she'll get you, she'll get a lot of fur on you. So I'm gonna Kaya, place.
What type of dog?
She's a mix, but she's a mix of a bunch of different things. She's a big lady. But as I was saying, Donald Trump's former defense attorney, now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, actually released a memo as well to Congress, Republican congressperson, from what I understand, saying that politically active or politically involved persons were also redacted.
Yeah,
similar to the 1,200 plus victims, and
it's
that was
outrageous. I mean, look, they are redacting information to basically protect people who are in the government or in politics or in business. And if you look at the law, we explicitly say you can't redact things to protect people's reputation or if it's going to cause embarrassment. They're doing exactly the opposite of what the law says. And then, you know, the two documents we wanted out. One was a 60-count indictment of Jeffrey Epstein because the 60-count indictment never saw the light of day, and it was ultimately 2 counts he was charged on, but there were 60 counts. Now, why do we want that document? Because that document will talk about how he made all his illegal money. How did this guy make $500 million? Who was paying him? Who were the other men involved with him? They didn't release that. They didn't release the prosecution memo justifying that indictment, the draft indictment. All of those draft indictments and prosecution memo got buried. And in our law, which you got up there, we say specifically all internal DOJ communications, including memos, notes, decisions to charge or not to charge, investigate or decline to investigate. Specifically, that language was for getting these 2 documents, and they're basically disobeying the law. And by the way, this isn't even, what's so scary to me is it's not just concealing Trump's name. I expected that they would try to eliminate the Trump name. They're protecting something else here. They're protecting rich and powerful interests going well beyond Donald Trump. That's what has me the most concerned. Like, what is it that they're trying to protect, and why are they trying to protect it?
Yes. So there's obviously the thing that a lot of people are hyper invested in here, which is, of course, the worst crime, the international sex trafficking of minors that took place. But then beyond that, there is obviously a lot of paper trail and a lot of financial crimes that took place as well, and a lot of very connected, very wealthy individuals that were Jeffrey Epstein associates. And we simply want to figure out, like, what level of involvement did they have? Not every single person, I suspect, that was pictured around Jeffrey Epstein was engaging in the worst of all crimes. That's not my assessment of this at all. But I do fear that that, just as you said, that is precisely what they're trying to protect here. That's precisely what they're trying to hide. Now, I have a bunch of questions. Why do you think that why do you think that they actually sheltered the public from the initial plea bargain deal, for example, like the other details that came out about how the first time Jeffrey Epstein was arrested and prosecuted, there was this trial that took place, and Trump's former labor secretary, Alexander Acosta, was the prosecutor on the case, who offered him a sweetheart plea bargain that no pedophile has ever gotten since or ever will, where he was allowed to be released on work release while he was in prison. That's insane.
He abused people while he was released. I mean, that's how horrific this was.
So that was, that was one of the major things that I was invested in, that I wanted to find out about. Why do you think they're openly hiding this side of the Jeffrey Epstein profile?
Well, because they know there was a huge amount of wrongdoing. That's one of the reasons we wanted that initial indictment draft, because there were supposed to be 60 counts, and all those 60 counts would be exposed. Acosta prosecuted 2 counts.
Yeah.
He got rid of all the 58. Then he does the plea bargain deal. We wanted to see the memos, what went into the decision to say that was reasonable. And I'm sure there are dissenting opinions of people who said, absolutely not. We wanted to see that email correspondence, those memos. They're hiding this because they know that they're rich and powerful people who intervened. Yeah. And they know that justice was not done, not just because of Epstein, not just because of Maxine
Ghislaine Maxwell.
Ghislaine Maxwell. You'd think I know it by now. Ghislaine Maxwell. I always get the name messed up. Ghislaine Maxwell. But it was done because of rich and powerful men.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the financial elite that's obviously very connected to Jeffrey Epstein in ways that we already know in broad daylight. constantly in and out of like these meetings, constantly photographed with him, some of which the House Oversight Committee has actually released, like the Democratic Oversight Committee has released as well, partially from, I believe, the Epstein, what is it called? Not the manor, but like the data dumps that came, the photographic dumps that came are not just from the investigation, right? Like the estate, the Epstein estate.
They're two different things.
Yeah. So can you describe that?
There's the law that requires the Justice Department to release them.
Yeah.
And then there's the letter that I sent to the estate saying we got to release that information. And Comer, who's the Republican chair, subpoenaed him because of Summer Lee's work and Robert Garcia's work, and they are releasing information. So there are two places we're getting this information from.
Yeah. And so a lot of the photos that were coming out from the Oversight Committee were coming from the estate, from if I recall correctly, and yet some of those files that would definitely be in the investigation in the Jeffrey Epstein files, right, from the court proceedings, are redacted. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this invited a lot of scrutiny, a lot of suspicion that the Department of Justice had actively redacted Donald Trump and many other high-profile players in American politics from the initial file release. One of the things that they ended up doing, and I suspected that initially they would, most likely just offer a little bit of red meat to the base and say like, oh, look, see Bill Clinton.
Right.
And they did do that. And I
Yeah.
also suspected that they would be so incompetent, as they have been over and over again, that they would still somehow find a way to fuck it up, which they did, right? And the oversight Dems actually called this out. Yesterday, we found out, alongside the rest of the internet, when the files were being released, there was one photo that actually made it through the censors. And one photo of Trump that made it through the censors. But it was a photo that was in a drawer, so I guess like
They didn't notice
whatever. Yeah, they did not notice that Donald Trump was in some of the files, and what the Department of Justice, from what we understand now, did was when they realized that Donald Trump was in this photo, they just deleted it. It's
Well, the cover-up is always worse than the crime. Someone probably thought, oh, am I going to get in trouble with Trump or the Trump White House? And it's absurd. I mean, look, this is the issue that is unraveling in part his presidency. This is the only issue where the MAGA base is brazenly defying him. Why?
Yeah.
Because he said that he was going to expose these people. He said that he was going to expose these corrupt people who get one set of justice, who raped young girls, and he's going to bring justice. He's not a perfect person. No one thinks that Donald Trump has led a perfect life, but they thought he was actually going to expose these folks and return government to people. And he's betrayed that promise. And that's why you look at my X feed. I encourage folks to just go and look at the X feed. I've got more MAGA supporters standing up for me than I ever have in my entire political career.
Yeah.
They're staking my side over Pam Bondi's side. They're going after the DOJ, saying you're killing Donald Trump's presidency. And so this issue, everyone says we got to take the fight to Trump take the fight to Trump. They all do memes against it, call him a fascist, call him a dictator. No one has actually been able to break the MAGA coalition. The reason Massey and I have actually been able to break the MAGA coalition is because we're actually saying we're on the people's side instead of the system side, that the system is rotten. That's what you got to do as a first principle for the Democratic Party. The system is rotten. Too much big money, too much influence of wealthy people, too many people who are getting away with things, and that we're going to be on the side of the people against this rotten system. And that was what Trump was saying, but he hasn't delivered.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this is, from my analysis, it almost feels like this is one of the purest expressions of like class politics that Americans can get on board with. It's not dialectics. It's not materialist at all, but it is like something that they have seen or something that they've suspected. There's obviously a lot of conspiracy around this sort of stuff. Like this was the whole motivating principle around QAnon, right? Or Pizzagate, or numerous other conspiracies that were not true at all. But now what I am seeing is that there are some people who see that this is valid, as opposed to the previous formations of these sorts of conspiracy theories, there is evidence on this. Unlike people who claim that these super wealthy people were communicating with one another and like using code words for child pornography or ordering children off of Wayfair or whatever. They were pretty brazen. They were pretty open about like Jeffrey Epstein. There's stuff that came out from the files that Jeffrey Epstein was mad at someone that was redacted that was procuring children for him, and they were over the age of 18, and he was like demanding to see their licenses to make sure that they were under the age of 18. They weren't
sick,
they were not using coded language at all. They were pretty flagrant. They were pretty blatant about.
They controlled the law enforcement. They thought if the FBI is not even investigating it, what do they have to worry about?
Exactly.
I mean, there are documents saying, "I have a woman for you. I have a girl for you." Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just sickening stuff. And 1,200 victims. For anyone who says, "Oh, there's not other rich and powerful people who are involved," I said one person is not abusing 1,200 people. Just the math doesn't work up. There are other people who are on that rape island who either watched young girls be paraded around or raped them. And, the reason this is, I think, resonant is people feel an anger that they've lost their economic voice. They don't control their own political voice. There's something that's wrong with the system. And this is like the symbol of what's wrong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a perfect demonstration of like how the super wealthy get away with doing heinous crimes while simultaneously controlling the levers of power, right? And I think that's the reason why a lot of people, this is a bipartisan thing, and not bipartisan in the sense that like politicians are on board with it, but this is a bipartisan issue in the eyes of the public. And as you also suggested, as you also correctly pointed out, I believe it's Donald Trump's least popular issue with his base, 54% disapproval, as opposed to everything else where the MAGA base basically is 80% approval rating on anything that Donald Trump is doing, with the exception of this, where there's a 54% disapproval. So it's pretty significant. And one of the angles that I wanted to cover here, however, that I feel like the media is noticeably absent on or omitting is the potential the potential connection with not just the super wealthy, but like intelligence, right? I know I'm sure you've seen the drop site reporting on this stuff, because there was Jeffrey Epstein's JE Vacation email address was leaked, was hacked, and his entire correspondence with world leaders and everyone else was leaked for all to see. And there has been very little coverage on this from the legacy publishers, unfortunately, and the only time I ever hear about this connection between Jeffrey Epstein and potentially Israeli intelligence, even though he is very clearly connected to Ehud Barak, and we knew about this even before the emails as well, and numerous other high-profile world leaders. The only time legacy media covers this is to say it's an anti-Semitic conspiracy. It's to say, oh, this suggestion is so ridiculous. And I believe Thomas Massey also brought this up yesterday, where he said a big part of the reason why there is this major cover-up is because it is very likely that Jeffrey Epstein was connected in some way, shape, or form to our intelligence and also to Israeli intelligence as well. Do you have any opinions on that?
Well, my opinion is that that's why we need the release of the files. That's why this was drafted in a way that would get the FBI files, that would get the national security files. That's why the lawyers of the survivors say you need all the files, the financial files, the national security files, the FBI files, and anything that isn't a current national security issue. So we even drafted it saying you can't overclassify information. If there's not a significant, clear national security threat, then it has to be declassified. So this will put to rest the issue is if we could have transparency, if the American people can see the files.
Yeah.
And if they can't see the files, then conspiracies will continue to grow, whether true or not. And so I guess even the legacy media should be just calling for the release of the files.
Yeah. And there is this somewhat elitist attitude, I feel like, that at least I've seen. I have tremendous respect for many journalists that I know and love that work at these outlets that want to do very good work and oftentimes do very good work. But overall, I feel like the editorial teams and the way that they respond to this kind of stuff is to simply say, oh, the public doesn't know how to handle this this information, and I think that's a dangerous line of thinking in general. The idea that people are too stupid to understand what's going on. But I do think that invites additional scrutiny, and that actually invites a lot of conspiracy theories, many of which can go down a dangerous path and actually do become anti-Semitic conspiracy theories if the truth is not assessed by credible actors and investigative reporters. So I always appreciate what DropSite is doing in terms of doing that investigation, that investigative reporting, and that work. There are, connections between Jeffrey Epstein and obviously Ehud Barak. There's connections between Jeffrey Epstein and people that were possibly involved in Iran-Contra that just recently came out. And I guess one of the questions I have for you is, there was another statement that Thomas Massie made that he said 20 to 25 people, if they are not outed as being co-conspirators or as being engaged with Jeffrey Epstein in some way, shape or form, by the time Friday comes around, that means that there will have been heavy redaction in direct violation of the act that was passed.
Correct.
Have you guys actually seen the unredacted files?
We have not. We've requested to see them. In fact, one of the things that Thomas and I were discussing today is putting together a committee of Congress, me, him, maybe someone from the Judiciary Committee, to go and look at these files, even if it's in a classified setting, to be able to say what complies and what doesn't comply. Because right now, they have shown no good faith in complying. And the reality is, we know that the survivors' lawyers have seen the files. And they have told us, and the survivors have told us, that there are other powerful men who either abused or raped these girls or showed up on the rape island while these girls were being abused. I mean, it's not hard to visualize. Think of a party. You got a lot of models, some of them in their 20s, and then you've got like this young girl walking around nude who's 14 or 15, and all these rich, powerful men there. Now, my view is every man there is guilty if they didn't say something in terms of abetting abuse. And so it's not just men who actually abused or raped these girls. It's also people who were showing up to these sick parties knowing that young girls were being paraded around. And that's the type of information that we're going to get if we get that 60-count indictment, if we get the 82-page memo that the prosecutions wrote, and if we get the FD forms, the FBI forms of interviews of all of the men who were interviewed by the FBI to understand what happened. I mean, how do you have a situation of a release where no one else's names are in there being investigated? Obviously, if there are 1,200 victims, even if the FBI concluded that some of these people were innocent or not guilty, they would have interviewed them. They would have been witnesses. There would have been questions. Where is all that stuff?
No, absolutely. I guess redacted, or they haven't even released many of the files yet, right? Like there's still so much that they are very clearly going through to hit the heavy-handed redaction that they did to the first tranche of data that they were forced to release, even though that was also in violation of the act that was passed. So my question, and I'm sure everyone else's question here, is what are the next steps here?
Well, there are a few steps. First of all, obviously, impeachment is on the table for Pam Bondi. There is criminal prosecution that she could face, or others at the Justice Department could face. And by the way, that criminal prosecution risk runs well beyond this administration. The next administration, in my view, it can't just be kumbaya. There needs to be accountability for crimes committed, accountability for crimes committed with ICE, accountability for crimes committed in the Caribbean where innocent boatmen are being killed, and accountability for crimes committed in not complying with Massie and my Epstein Transparency Act. Accountability is going to be needed. But Massie and I are also in the process of drafting a bill for the inherent contempt of Congress. What does that mean? Pam Bondi could be fined every day if she's not agreeing to release these documents. And we're going to propose a group of people in Congress, a bipartisan group that gets to review these documents so that we can assess what is a legitimate redaction and what is not, and actually have her comply with the law. Because my goal is not retribution. It's not to score a point against the president's cabinet. My goal is justice for these survivors and actually figuring out how we get these documents out. One point, I think this first run may have been a test, them just seeing, okay, what can we get away with? And the outcry that it's come out, hopefully this pushes them to realize this, that they're not done with this. Just the before Christmas release isn't working.
Yeah.
That there's going to be more demand for these documents to actually come out.
Yeah. So that's one angle for sure. And I think that there is a lot of appetite across the board, across the political spectrum for some kind of transparency in all of this. Clearly, if that wasn't the case, then Donald Trump wouldn't have signed this act into law to begin with, right? And they have mishandled this process, absolutely. I guess what are the next steps? Not to throw curveballs here, but like, what are the next steps if like Donald Trump offers a blanket pardon across the board to everyone that's mishandling this or deliberately redacting things in violation of the law?
Well, he could do that, and it would make it harder for them to be prosecuted in the future. But, do you really want to be a career Justice Department official or even appointee having as the capstone on your career being pardoned by Donald Trump for protecting pedophiles? I mean, that's really what people will be choosing. And then it'll be the next administration that releases all of this. But we are not giving up, because the reason I believe it's possible to shift the administration is we shifted Trump from calling it a hoax to signing the bill, because the one thing he can read is public opinion.
Yeah.
And he saw that this was going to be a huge story. It was hurting his presidency. In fact, he kept saying, I don't know why we keep talking about Epstein. I want to talk about all my achievements. He knew it was the Achilles heel, the kryptonite of his administration. And so now he's going to realize that this was another whiff by Pam Bondi. Susan Wild said it. She keeps whiffing. I don't know. She's so out of touch. She was supposed to meet the survivors. And then she said, oh, I've got an appointment. I can't meet the survivors.
Yeah. There was one thing that I also wanted to bring up with Pam Bondi's inconsistency in the way that she's actually talked about this, because obviously initially when they got together and did this like fake release of the Epstein files with all of the MAGA influencers,
right.
And that was a major W. Like they thought that this would satiate people's appetite for the truth.
Right.
And very clearly, it was all the stuff that we had access to already. And I think they thought that the people would just not demand more, where they were like, oh yeah, we're tuned in. We saw this, libs of TikTok was celebrating that they got this tranche of data.
Yeah.
But in the process, there were certain things that Pam Bondi had said that we now know are absolutely untrue. The notion, for example, that a lot of the CSAM that was in the Epstein files was commercially bought CSAM. We now know that there is, we now know that that's probably not true, right? Because there is a lot of not just redacted, but like CSAM slips that are all over the Epstein files that were released. Obviously, they're not going to digitize copies of child sexual abuse material, but like it's very clear that that was a hard copy that wasn't actually like digitally acquired or anything like that. There's instances where Jeffrey Epstein personally is actually like procuring or creating CSAM as well with 14-year-old victims, and the notion that this was the notion that this was just Jeffrey Epstein's doing, that he was just simply procuring all of this stuff for himself, is very clearly untrue. So that inconsistency, does that reach the boundaries of perjury? I mean, or does that only happen if Pam Bondi is in front of Congress, I guess?
The biggest thing is she's obstructed justice. She can be impeached because she didn't comply with the law. I mean, that's the obstruction of justice, and that's grounds for impeachment, is grounds for criminal prosecution. she also lied, right? I mean, she stood up in front of the country and said, there's nothing more to see. We've released everything.
Yeah.
And by their own admission, they're releasing hundreds of thousands of more documents. What changed?
Yeah.
Well, how did they suddenly find all these documents? By the way, there are 300 gigabytes of files on the Epstein files. How do I know this? Because Kash Patel in front of Congress said there are 300 gigabytes, and they've released yesterday 2.5 gigabytes. So you can do the math. I mean, they've got hundreds of thousands more documents. And what are these documents? All the interviews. They're 1,200 survivors, all the interviews that they were conducting, all the other men who were on the island, all the other men who participated in this. I mean, we don't want just random documents. We don't want just random files. We don't want just random photos. We want to know who was on that island, who knew about these young girls being raped, who engaged in either rape or abuse or sex on that island. I mean, that's all that information is in those FBI witness interview FD files.
Yeah. Also, what level of involvement did Steve Bannon have, for example, another Trump affiliate that we know was deeply connected to Jeffrey Epstein? And there's a lot of inconsistency in the way that he's also presented himself here. At first, after Julie K. Brown's investigative reporting at the Miami Herald,
she's
when
terrific.
She's amazing. When the second Epstein trial was starting, Bannon actually went to Jeffrey Epstein and conducted these interviews in the form of deposition training and to do PR. And then, when the attitude shifted against Jeffrey Epstein even more than it had, he very quickly turned around and said, "Oh, I'm just shooting a documentary," right? But there are so many photos of Steve Bannon being chummy with Jeffrey Epstein. Why is none of that in the investigation? Why was that redacted? I mean, this is not even Donald Trump at that point. This is a totally, supposedly unaffiliated person. So, like, why is the Department of Justice not only sheltering Donald Trump, but sheltering Trump allies who are political operatives themselves? I mean, that's not a matter of national security, right?
No, they're sheltering rich and powerful people, just like they're sheltering the survivors. I mean, the whole point of the Epstein Act was that we want to know who these rich and powerful people were.
Yeah.
That they weren't charged. Usually the Justice Department doesn't release things on people who weren't charged because they figure, well, your reputation shouldn't be destroyed if you weren't charged. But in this case, we know that the process was corrupt. We know that the law enforcement couldn't be trusted.
Yeah.
We know that they didn't follow the FBI tips, that we know that they didn't prosecute. So in this case, the American public is saying we do want everything out there because the justice system let these women down.
Yeah, justice delayed is justice denied, and the justice has been delayed. And the further they, the further that the Department of Justice tries to engage in this cover up, they're only expanding on the injustice that they participated in early on. So. What do you? This is actually a good question. What would you think is like a solid example of a legitimate national security hypothetical for you? What would be a real example of a national security concern that they engage in some sort of redaction on?
Well, look, if there was actually some conversation where it would expose someone who is a spy or a CIA agent and expose who they are and their identity, or expose their family. You don't want to put people at risk who are in those roles. If Epstein happened to know something because he knew a lot of powerful people about our national secrets in terms of our sensitive weapons or sensitive information, you wouldn't want that out there. So I can see there being, or if there were some comments made about a foreign leader, that you don't want the American president to be exposed in that way, or another country thinking something. So there are cases, and we can debate what those cases are.
Mm-hmm.
People often say, why did you not write the bill in a way that said everything has to come out and not even have an exception for classified information? And anyone who's been in Congress more than a day will tell you there's no chance anything like that would pass. There are too many people in Congress who'd just find that as the excuse. Khanna and Massey want to get rid of classified information. So we had the narrowest possible classified drafting to be able to get that bill through.
Okay. So that for the record, that in and of itself, though, I think does lend even further credence to the suspicion that there was like some kind of involvement with the intelligence communities, which is one of the prevailing narratives that is often left unaddressed, like I said, with the exception of mainstream outlets just simply calling this a conspiracy theory. But obviously it goes beyond that as well. There are people who are not, CIA affiliated that are being sheltered here very clearly. There's also Donald Trump being sheltered here with the redactions, as we have seen from the actions that the Department of Justice took after people realized that they failed to redact some of the Donald Trump photos. And this is this is so silly, right? But as far as the potential involvement of Israel, are you familiar with the drop site reporting on this stuff?
I am. Ryan Graham and drop site. I'm well familiar.
So you're familiar with the back and forth correspondence that has taken place. I mean, even with these files, there was one photo with David Blaine doing. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. David Blaine doing magic tricks in a room with Jeffrey Epstein and also former Prime Minister of Israel Ehud Barak. Former Prime Minister of Israel Ehud Barak had also, is it David Copperfield? I thought it was David Blaine. Anyway, here it is. Magic tricks, performing magic tricks for Jeffrey Epstein. Is this David Copperfield? Am I wrong? I don't know. One of the magic guys. Performing magic tricks for Epstein and a few notable names, including Israeli Prime Minister at the time, Ehud Barak. And the question I have, no, that is David Blaine. Okay, you guys are... Copperfield also did it as well. I don't know why everyone is so worried about who the magician is here. I'm not implying that the magician is the important figure in this. Okay. Anyway, even though both were involved in different ways, doesn't matter. So it's things like this. It's things like this that people understandably want answers for. Do you feel like omitting this kind of stuff or refusing to talk about this kind of stuff is adding on to the scrutiny that people have for mainstream media nowadays?
Yeah, I think it all should come out. And we've drafted, that's why the classified exception we drafted was the narrowest possible way, that you have to justify it. It can't be excessively used. It can't be used to cover up what actually took place. And we drafted it with the narrowest way, in a way that could still pass the Congress. Because the reality is, if the bill doesn't pass the Congress, there's no use to it. But that is why what we're saying is that there needs to be people like Massey and me who get to see these documents, and then we can have a yes or no vote on, is it truly something redacted because it's going to protect the survivors or families or protect certain classified information, or should this be out there? My view is, if you don't have this out there, that's how you, as you pointed out, have conspiracy theories take hold. I mean, if there's nothing to hide, put it out there. Let people make that determination. By the way, the biggest thing that could be out there is the indictment, the 60-page indictment.
Yeah.
So people know, okay, was there foreign involvement? I mean, that indictment will say that right there. If there was no evidence in that indictment of foreign interest, that would be a big tell that, okay, maybe there wasn't there. If the indictment says, look, here are the 60 counts and here are the things that were happening from overseas, that would be a big issue. That's why we explicitly drafted.
Wait, this is the indictment for the second investigation or the first one?
This is the 60-page indictment, 60-count indictment that the assistant U.S. attorney in Florida put together in 2007.
Oh, yeah.
That Acosta ignored and then charges just 2 counts. Those are 60 counts. You don't have 60 counts just of pedophilia. You have 60 counts of money laundering and transactions. We want to see all of that. And that will get to the questions that you've been asking.
So that the other side of the story also is Alexander Acosta is out there, like he is out there. Is there any demand to maybe pull him in front of Congress? Is that something that you guys can entertain? Because like he was the labor secretary at the time.
He came before the Oversight Committee, but it's just not, I don't think we can believe him. I mean,
so because there is the famous secondhand there was some reporting in the media at the time that when he was labor secretary and he resigned, because of the Epstein stuff. There was this question where he was like, "Oh, well, at the time, someone led me to believe that he was actually intelligent, someone from higher up." Because there was also a subsequent federal investigation that was taking place, and there were a lot of co-conspirators that actually were sheltered from the law in what seemingly was even beyond the sweetheart plea bargain that we've seen. Like there's no instance where there's this virtual RICO case almost where you can where you find so many people who are criminally liable potentially for financial crimes and potentially for sex crimes as well, trafficking of minors, where all of the other people that were engaging in these acts are not only given blanket protection, blanket immunity, but we don't even know who they are as unindicted co-conspirators at all. Like it's unimaginable. It's unheard of.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I'm seeing some of the questions. It's a great thing. You get instantaneous feedback. One, why is there no enforcement mechanism? There is. The enforcement mechanism is the obstruction of justice. You don't have to put in. This is one of the big misconceptions out there. Anyone who doesn't who violates a congressional law by definition is obstructing justice where Congress has asked it for justice purposes and can face decades in prison for that. So the question is not, is there an enforcement mechanism? It's, are we going to actually have it enforced? And if it's not going to be enforced by this administration, it needs to be enforced by the next one. Mm-hmm. The second point is that Acosta should be prosecuted if if there's clear evidence of perjury. I mean, you can't come in and lie to Congress.
Well, now he has a cushy job at Newsmax, because I've been following his career. It's very interesting, going from Florida prosecutor, upstart, to like labor secretary under Donald Trump, to then resigning in disgrace, or at least like trying to quietly exit the Trump administration when the Epstein stuff was coming back to the forefront, only to now sit on the board, I believe, of Newsmax. That's what he's doing now.
And look, there's got to be an accountability of what did he know? But the reason it's so hard to prosecute all these individuals and hold them accountable is we don't have the files. So, there's got to be the evidence of what came out. And then we can say, okay, now we know that someone was lying or not lying.
Absolutely. So there is also the question of Kash Patel. Didn't Patel say that there were no other individuals that could be charged in front of Congress? There is also...
How does he know that? I mean, the survivors don't believe that. Do they think that all 1,200 survivors were raped and abused by Epstein? Of course not. There were other people involved.
And they themselves, according to Thomas Massey, who has spoken to the lawyers of many of the survivors, say that there is at least 20 to 25 people that are supposed to be in the first tranche of data that came out, that was supposed to come out yesterday, were supposed to be outed.
That was the whole point of the release, and not a single person. We don't have any single information about someone who was engaged in the abuse or cover up of the abuse beyond Maxwell and Epstein, and that's why this thing is a farce, and that's why Massey and I are upping the ante, saying we will use all our powers, whether it's inherent contempt, whether it is impeachment, whether it's referral for prosecution. The reality is that Massey and I have been effective on this issue because we have cracked the MAGA coalition, because it's bipartisan, because we're taking on a corrupt system. Now, by the way, this is a corrupt system that has led to billionaires accumulating value. We need to have a billionaire tax in this country, a wealth tax. It's led to overseas wars. We shouldn't be bombing people, innocent people on boats in the Caribbean. It led this kind of corrupt system to the Iraq War, which was wrong. It led to us at 20 years in Afghanistan. It led to the overthrow of Libya, which was a total foreign policy blunder. It led to supporting of Netanyahu and the genocide which the Israeli government committed in Gaza, and a blank check. And I was one of the few politicians who stood up and said no to the $14 billion, and who has gotten on Delia Ramirez's bill to say block military sales to Netanyahu's government, and who's gotten on Rashida Tlaib's resolution to say that what the Israeli government did was a genocide. But the point of all of this is, if we are not going to have politicians willing to tell the truth when it comes to things like Epstein, how do you expect them to tell the truth about issues of foreign policy? How do you expect them to tell the truth about issues of economic policy? The currency of modern politics should be courage and truth-telling, not just charisma and memes. is, are you going to stand for principle in this country?
Yeah, it's the media landscape and the people's attitude has changed quite dramatically since the first time we had a conversation at the DNC. If you recall, you were one of the congresspersons leading the charge against Israel. And even then there was a lot of restraint for, saying certain things about Israel back then that many Democrats didn't even broach, obviously. And I think that played a role in the Democrats losing.
It did play a role. It's not a thing.
Yeah,
the data shows that.
So that's actually something I wanted to ask you about. This is not to the same degree of severity as the Epstein redactions, but Ken Martin recently said that they would not release the autopsy or the assessment that came out about how the Kamala Harris campaign, how the Democrats lost to Donald Trump. How do you feel about that?
Well, they should obviously release it. I mean, it's just kind of arrogance to not release it. But I'm not, I'm not crying a river because that autopsy was done by consultants, and I'm not sure that I need to listen to DC consultants about what we did wrong. I'd rather be out there in the community. That said, it just kind of speaks to this sense of lack of accountability. Like we need to understand that the American people are upset at the entire system. They're upset at both parties. They want a new generation of leadership. They are sick of speeches that go like this. I want to renew the American dream. I want us all to have an equal opportunity. I want us all to have a great life. And you said nothing. How about specifics? Do you stand for Medicare for all? Do you stand for taxing billionaires in a wealth tax? Do you stand for cutting the bloated defense budget? Do you stand for not giving Netanyahu a blank check of military sales? Are you willing to say what happened was a genocide? Are you willing to stop Wall Street from buying up single-family homes? Are you willing to hold people accountable who've committed crimes with violating the Epstein Transparency Act? Are you going to speak truth to power? And if you're just going to give platitudes, it doesn't matter how many consultants you get.
Yeah.
You say how many, we used to need to use the word affordability. We need to use the word higher prices. That's not what lower prices. That's not what wins.
Thank you. So this is actually something that I've been very critical about as well. I think a lot of people on the Democratic Party side as well are either deliberately obfuscating Zohran Mamdani's victory in New York against all odds, against the Democratic establishment as well as the media, who were very critical of him, or the people on the Democratic Party side who said, "Oh, this is just affordability" as a buzzword, right? And my frustration now is it's not just saying affordability is a problem. You also have to have tangible policy prescriptions, and you have to really hammer on those tangible policy prescriptions, and that's precisely what Zohran Mamdani did in New York.
That's right.
That played a formative role in his victory, like a campaign that is anchored around policies. You mentioned a couple of them. Medicare for All is a fantastic one. Obviously, taxing billionaires, a wealth tax is another great one. I'm totally on board with those issues. Do you feel like the Democrats, in the absence of unifying around these key issues, who keep leaning onto the likes of the Welcome Pack or other consultant-backed movements that are trying to dilute the message a little bit and to simply say, no, you don't understand. The people actually want marginal improvements. And here is the polling that suggests that this marginal improvement is actually much more successful. Do you feel as though that is playing a role in why the Democratic Party as a whole is still incredibly unpopular in the face of Trump's incompetence?
Yes, look, this is going to be a fight. We're not going to have kumbaya unity, Democratic Party, the lowest common denominator. I mean, you can't say I'm for affordability and then go to the billionaires and say, give me some money and I'm not going to raise your taxes. I mean, you have to stand for things. And when you stand for things, you're going to upset people. You're going to upset people if they have to pay higher taxes if they're billionaires. They may still support you, but you got to be honest with them like FDR was. You're going to upset private insurance companies if you're for Medicare for all. You're going to upset the defense industrial base if you're saying we're going to cut the defense budget. You're going to upset pharmaceuticals if you're going to say that Americans shouldn't pay a higher price than other countries, and if not, we'll take away your patents. You have to be willing to challenge economic power. And the Democrats kind of don't want to do that. So what are we going to have? We're going to have a fight in 2026 and 2028.
Yeah.
And the fight is going to be Are we just going to be a party that says Trump is bad and he's terrible?
Yeah.
Are we just going to be the party that says we're going to stop ICE agents from ripping away kids from their families and deporting innocent people, and we're going to stop the irrational tariffs that in some cases have increased food prices, and we're going to stop the assault on the Department of Education and U.S. aid and the hollowing out of NIH and the attacks on universities? All of that is needed, but I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. I don't want to just be the anti-Trump party and return to how things were.
Yeah.
I want to be the party that says that ordinary Americans have been screwed because we've gotten into wars overseas that have not helped them, but have helped the defense industrial base, that we have seen them suffer with medical debt at the expense where private insurance has profited, and that we are going to have a bold progressive agenda. Billionaire taxes, Medicare for all, $10 a day childcare, stop Wall Street and private equity from buying up single-family homes, 1,000 new trade schools, free public college, stop giving a blank check to Israel and Netanyahu, start investing in at home in our communities, to have a Marshall Plan for America to build up good-paying jobs here. And by the way, stand with workers over AI. Don't have just AI eliminate all jobs. Make sure we're standing with truck drivers and warehouse workers and customer service agents, and that we have AI technology not be stopped, but be developed in a way that helps workers. We need a vision in this country. And that is what I think that the fight has to be in 2026 and 2028. The Epstein issue for me is just a proof point of character.
Yeah.
Call out the Epstein class so you can have the trust to call out a corrupt system that hasn't been working for ordinary Americans.
It's a litmus test in the same way that, like, I think Israel was a litmus test. I often would tell people that would accuse me of being so single-minded on this issue that not only was it morally repugnant, and of course I was going to stand against genocide, but that this lack of movement around Israel, or the complete defense of Israel's genocide, was actually a litmus test for a lot of people that caused them to check out of politics in general and refuse to vote, because as Ta-Nehisi Coates very famously said at the time, a party that doesn't want to save lives against the genocide, what makes you think they will preserve democracy? And that was the assessment that a lot of people made, even if they didn't specifically say that, but they were just like, these guys don't stand for me. They don't care about my interests at all. And I think that's where we're at. And Democrats' refusal to recognize this reckoning, this populist reckoning that's coming from the bottom up, is the reason why they're still sitting at like a tremendous negative disapproval rating. Like, it's a negative approval rating when they are supposed to, when they're supposed to be very popular, because they're supposed to be the opposition to Donald Trump.
Right.
So it's not enough. And so I'm glad that you're calling this stuff out. And I really appreciate that you've noticed the tide shift that has moved away from the establishment Democrats and the way that they are trying to present themselves. You've called out Chuck Schumer quite a bit.
Well, I was the first Democrat to call on him to step down.
Yeah.
And then people said, bro, your career's over. You can't get any bill through the Senate. And then 1 week later, there's Chuck Schumer reading Ro Khanna's bill, the Epstein Transparency Act, acting for unanimous consent. You know what progressives need to learn? That when you're strong, people will bend to you. When you're strong in your convictions, then people will come to you. That's the one thing, actually, Donald Trump, as terrible as he is, understands. That if you are strong, then people will come to you. What we are is so weak. We say, we can't criticize Chuck Schumer because Chuck Schumer then will not move my bill. I just showed you. You can call for Chuck Schumer to step down, and he still went and he introduced my bill with unanimous consent because I had the people on my side.
Yeah.
We have so many politicians who are more concerned about building friendships with Chuck Schumer than building friendships with our base. If we have the base, if we have the American people, if we're fighting for the right policies, the politicians will follow. I don't court the politicians, I court the people. And that's the fundamental difference in who we will have leading this party in 26 and 28. Are you going to be with the people, or is your constituency the people in Washington, D.C.?
So, question for you, in all of this calculation that's taking place right now, because there is definitely this attitude shift. I've noticed it as well. You have the likes of Graham Plattner, in spite of like their, inconsistencies from their past with like all this opposition research coming out. It seems like the Democratic base of support that previously would move on the whims of MSNBC, now known as MS Now, and establishment Democrats, are actually demanding more radical politics and do actually see that as the pathway towards electability. In the past, mainstream outlets for a lot of the high propensity voters on the Democratic primaries that are, those who go out and vote, the older Democrats, they would be moved by the editorial board of the New York Times when the New York Times said electability is actually about moderate, about moderacy. Electability is about moderate Democrats. You have to vote for moderate Democrats. They would believe people, but I think the sequence of electoral defeats have left a lot of liberals who previously thought that moderate Democrats were the pathway to success in demanding more from Democrats and are totally on board with much more quote unquote radical politics like Medicare for all, which is not radical at all, obviously. Yeah. And so now you're seeing the messaging shift a little bit on the Democrat side. What do you have to say about people that will come out and be like, oh, I'm not taking any AIPAC donations now? It's great. It is a market sea change, right? Unheard of 5 years ago. People used to criticize Bernie Sanders for saying he's not going to speak at AIPAC. They would have the audacity to even say like he's anti-Semitic for refusing to speak at an AIPAC
is
summit.
spending against me in my district, calling me a liar right now because I co-sponsored Rashida Tlaib's bill recognizing what the UN recognized, that the Israeli government has committed a genocide in Palestine. But look, I'm glad that politicians are saying that. I don't take any PAC money. I don't take any lobbyist money. But here's the point. That's not enough. First of all, because money can go through different organizations and different people. They may not take it, quote unquote, through AIPAC's website, but those same donors can then call some other new entity.
Or subsidiaries. The MFI is another one, Democratic Majority for Israel. And also the same exact American donor base can still go and give these guys money, as you said.
But so my point is, where do you stand on a policy? Right. I said to someone that I think that one thing that the Democratic primary will want in the future leaders of the party is just the ability to say that what happened in Gaza was a genocide by the UN. And they said, well, bro, this is going to be like the 10th or 15th priority. I said, of course, when you ask someone, what do they care about? They're going to say, I want to make sure I have health care. I want to make sure I have a job. I want to make sure I can afford my rent. And I want to make sure I have housing. I want to make sure people have a living wage. But people don't vote just on who's going to increase minimum wage or who's going to help their grocery bills. They also vote for a sense of character, of values, of who they want to be as a people. Yeah. And the issue of Gaza goes to who we are. Are we going to deny things that we all saw with our own eyes? Are we going to lie to ourselves about who we are as a people? Or are we going to aspire to be a people that treats everyone with dignity and human rights? And yes, of course, what I care about is a job and housing and living wage. But if you don't speak to people's values, if you don't speak to their sense of morality, you'll never get them knocking on doors and giving years of their lives. And that's, I think, where the disconnect happens, where these consultants look at the polls and they've never had to inspire. Yeah. They've never had to lead. They've never had to mobilize. They've never had to organize.
I mean, this is a conversation that you and I had at the DNC specifically on the issue of Gaza, but also beyond that on immigration. If you recall, one of the major pain points for someone like myself was the anger that I had for the Democrats and their inability to deal with the issue of immigration because they were so scared of what they were seeing in the polls about 60% of Americans being in favor of mass deportation. At the time, I said to you that like this is going to change inevitably, and then there will be Democrats who were pro more stringent, the Democrats that leaned into the white nativist hysteria concocted by the Republicans instead of counter messaging against that, we're going to look inconsistent or hypocritical. And we're there now. Public attitude has swung dramatically in the opposite direction. 79% of Americans favor immigration. It's the highest approval rating that immigration has gotten in the history of the United States of America. And that only took a year of black bagging and kidnapping and mass deportation initiatives that were implemented. So the question I have both for immigration and actually, you know what? Let's just stay on immigration for now. What do you think is going to be the broader Democratic Party sentiment at the national level against immigration now? Do you think that it's still going to demand some kind of middle of the ground approach where they're like, yeah, some of these guys are actually rapist monsters and we do have to deport them, implying that, Joe Biden's administration wasn't doing that, which is a lie. Of course they were. If someone is doing a crime, immigrant, non-immigrant, they're going to get prosecuted. Or do you feel as though Democrats will be more bold and question the legitimacy of the vitriolic, racialized, white nativist, anti-immigrant sentiment that was fomented in this country?
Look, I'm the son of immigrants. My parents came here from India. When I still go on a plane, even when I'm going in a congressional delegation, my mom says, please don't lose your passport. I say, Mom, I got like the military with me. There's such a fear that immigrants have of loss. And I saw how they adjusted in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And we had a very welcoming community. But the sense of having an accent, the sense of when you go in a restaurant and they would always order and say, no, we don't want the ice. And I said, Mom, they serve ice in these restaurants. I mean, you got to just get used to the ice. And I understand what it's like to be an immigrant. And here's what I know. Immigrants make this country better. Immigrants contribute. Immigrants are patriots. Immigrants work hard. Immigrants start small businesses. My mom would tell me, learn every single word in the English language, because that's what's going to make you a patriot and contribute to this country. Most immigrants want their kids to learn everything about this country, to contribute to this country. And I am tired.
And they work hard.
And they work hard.
They work hard to be a part of this country.
And I'm tired of this our party starting with immigrants as the problem.
Yeah.
As opposed to what immigrants do. If I were in charge when they were talking about eating the dogs and cats, you know what I would have done? I would have said our candidates should go to Springfield, Ohio, and they should stand with those Haitian immigrants, and they should start to talk about what those Haitian immigrants are actually doing.
Humanizing the migrant population against like all the racialized animus.
Instead, every trip we took was to the border. I'm not saying, of course, we need a border, a secure border. I'm not saying don't talk about that. But why are you always leading with that? Lead with what the community is doing. Now, the second thing is you got to be with a place of conviction. I got crushed a couple months after the election. I went on Bill Maher's show. And I said I voted against the Lake and Riley Act. And I said that because even if someone has committed a criminal act in this country, we have due process. We don't just take someone and deport them. And that's why I voted against Lake and Riley. And the audience basically, clearly, I lost that debate. I mean, if you look at the clips, you'll see
where are they at now?
My team was like, what, you got crushed.
Where are those liberals at now on this?
But you know what? I stuck my guns. And now the vote looks like it was the right vote. Now everyone's come around. And you know what? The people who voted for Lake and Raleigh, they just hope everyone forgets.
Yes.
And most of the country will forget, but progressives don't forget. What do I mean by a progressive? A progressive is simply someone who looks at this person's record, who looks beyond the rhetoric. Why was Bernie Sanders so popular? Because he had voted for the same thing for 30, 40 years. People do their homework, because they don't want just someone who's going to say the right thing in the right moment with the trend lines, who sees the wave of Bernie or Mamdani and says, how do I catch this wave? They want people who actually, when they get there, are going to fight. Because even if you win, the fight then just begins against the special interests are going to come after you. And if you don't have the record to stand up on shows like Bill Maher, how are you going to have the record when you get to the Congress or the Senate or the White House? We need people who have conviction in our politics. And what is exciting to me is all these young progressives running across the country. Graham Plattner in Maine, Abdul Al-Saeed in Michigan, Kat Abdul Ghazala in Chicago. So many. I mispronounced her name, but we've endorsed dozens across the country. These bold young progressives.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's where the momentum is. And it's very clear that like the establishment Democrats are trying to lean into that momentum, not fully understanding exactly why there's so much momentum or so much grassroots backing for a lot of these candidates, and simply trying to lean into that with aesthetic postures instead of demanding more, instead of openly calling out what Israel has done as genocide, openly saying that Israel is an apartheid state, and demanding change or reconsidering the way that we have aligned with Israel. in perpetuity. They just simply say, oh, I'm not taking any AIPAC money. And that's wishy-washy and it's marginal. It's still good that it's like moving the needle in the appropriate direction, but it's too little too late. And I think that like you've said over and over again, Democrats need to stop being afraid of leading. Listen, we have a saying in our community, at least, that being a leftist is being right just too early. And, you get punished for it endlessly. Whether it be my opinions on Israel, whether it be my opinions on how the Democrats mishandled immigration, and the conversation around the immigration. This is something that I was very critical on the Biden administration on from April 2021 when they first noticed that a lot of people were getting agitated and they thought, oh, if we just don't address this at all, if we don't do anything. That Joe Biden ran on in 2020 and defeated Donald Trump on, the first 100 days of immigration was this comprehensive agenda leaning into amnesty and things of that nature. But they saw an overwhelming amount of people come to the border, as usually the case whenever there is a non-Republican in charge. They didn't know how to handle it. And this issue got completely out of control. At the time, I said they should have prosecuted Governor Greg Abbott for trafficking human beings across state lines in a deliberate effort to gum up the works. The already established the immigration processing was made even more difficult deliberately without even corresponding with the other states and officials from other states in an attempt to exhaust their funds and exhaust their resources. And it was very successful. The very fact that Ron DeSantis and Greg Abbott were able to do this without any scrutiny whatsoever is incredible, is insane to me. That Democrats should have punished them. And then they should have reappropriated funds adequately to ensure that, one, this doesn't happen again, and two, the immigrants that were already being processed now in places like New York, Rhode Island, and many other places actually had the localities there actually had the proper funds to make sure that they were integrated expeditiously and could work. And not be this like exhaustive strain on the limited resources that they had. Very frustrating to see this all the time. But one last question I have for you, because we've already I've taken up a lot of your time.
Oh, this has been fun.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do this. Hours straight.
I do it for 10 hours, 8 hours.
That's crazy.
It's just
you got that's but
I'm a very stubborn person.
I've been watching some of the comments, and you got a very educated and informed community, and they're the ones. People out there are the ones who are finally being heard. I mean, we're going to change things.
They're nerds. That's why. It's a Saturday afternoon, and they're sitting in here listening to me talk to a congressperson. They're not. I wouldn't say they're like the average American politics appreciator.
But they're the activists. They're the ones who will be knocking on doors. They'll be on social media. Look, we have a historic chance finally to build a progressive movement in this country. Had finished the job that Bernie Sanders did. I endorsed him in 2016. I co-chaired with Nina Turner and Ben Cohen his campaign in 2020. I was one of his national co-chairs. And we should have won. The country would be a different place. We wouldn't have had the mess in Gaza. We didn't. We came close. We can finish the job in 26 and 28 and build an FDR-like progressive coalition. And that's going to happen because of people here. I mean, this is the energy of the movement. And with Zoran winning, it shows anything is possible. The energy is on our side.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Do you fear that that foreign governments may take action against you beyond simply trying to disparage you and dumping boatloads of funds into your opposition?
Well, look, they're going after me both because of the Epstein issue and because of my votes and comments on Gaza. And some of the tech billionaires don't like me these days because I said that we should be for the workers and not just have AI put data centers everywhere when it's increasing electricity costs and using water costs. And I said that the tech companies need to be paying for that and need to have renewable energy and need to have water use standards. And so some people started to come after me there. And so I have taken on some powerful interests. My grandfather spent 4 years in jail as part of Gandhi's independence movement, literally in jail. He was jailed twice. And the challenges as an American politician pale in comparison to that. So when I think about, what risks I'm taking, what issues I'm fighting for, I think nothing I do will come close to the courage that my grandfather had. And by that, I don't just mean my grandfather. I mean all of the people who have sacrificed for this nation, whether they're people who fought in World War II and scaled the cliffs of Normandy, whether they were people who were beaten in the Edmund Pettus Bridge, whether they were part of decolonizing movements around the world. We have a chance to do a beautiful thing in America, to build a truly multiracial democracy of equality and dignity of every human being, to move beyond the colonizer's model of the world, to have a world that recognizes the dignity and human rights of every nation, every person. And that's what we're building here. We are incredibly privileged to be in the United States of America to have that chance.
Yeah, I always say, like, look, while white supremacy is definitely a resilient galvanizing factor for many Americans, like, Americans are much more open-minded about diversity than even our European counterparts are. And that is precisely the reason why, in spite of Donald Trump's popularity, in spite of how much he hammered on, undocumented migrants doing like all these crimes and whatnot, which is, pure manufactured hysteria, manufactured outrage, that Americans by and large are very inconsistent in the way that they see the world. And there's a sea of contradictions there for the average American politics understander, the median voter. And that's precisely the reason why the very same people, if you were to ask them, the very same people that were like, holding up even the mass deportation, deport them all placards at the Trump rallies, if you were to ask them, like, do you think an immigrant that's been here for 10 years that has done no crimes whatsoever should have amnesty after, background checks? They would all collectively say absolutely. And I'm not making this up. I'm not making up a hypothetical person. There's evidence to suggest that this is the reality, because that's what the polls say.
Well, it's not just, it is the polls, I'm sure. But you know how I know that? Because I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. 99% white Christian. I was one of the only Indian American Hindu kids on the street. And I used to play Little League baseball. I couldn't hit. They used to put me ninth. When I used to go up to hit, they used to say, watch the bunt. I was so bad at hitting. But I knew those folks. And I knew they were decent and kind and welcoming, and that they wanted me and my family to fit in. They didn't understand everything, but it was a good community. We are a decent and good people that has been exploited by politicians who are protecting an Epstein class, who are protecting rich and powerful people and blaming immigrants, blaming foreign countries, blaming LGBT and trans people because they don't want to deal with the wealth and the power that is shafting folks. And if we come in with truth, if we come in with honesty, and if we say, look, we are a decent multiracial democracy that can respect each other, and we are sick of having our money go to Argentina or Netanyahu. We're sick of the wars in Iraq or Venezuela or Libya. We want Medicare for all. We want $10 a day childcare. We want to tax these billionaires when you got $18 trillion in Rose District. We want childcare, healthcare, education for every American. Then I think we can inspire this country. And I call it economic patriotism, but I believe it's a patriotic vision of what America is supposed to be, of how you can have an Indian American of Hindu faith talking to someone of Muslim faith on a Saturday afternoon and inspiring a nation. Let's be the best
in a room filled with Christmas decorations.
With Christmas. There you go.
But no, absolutely. It's what you're describing is coming fairly close to class first politics in general. This doesn't mean that you write off, other marginalized identities or other marginalized groups in this bargain, but it's more so to bring voters from the other side without compromising on those values. And I think that in the absence of Democrats engaging in this sort of class first politics, they often simply engage in this aesthetic posture towards like protecting migrants or protecting trans people. And they're the first to write them off, as we saw in the aftermath of the last general election defeat, where they were like, oh, well, we were just like too protective over trans people. It's like, that wasn't even a point of contention at all. You never did. And the only reason why you were defined by those policies is because you were not defined by any of the policies that you wanted to put forward, because in the absence of being defined by easy to understand policies like the ones that you suggested, of course your opposition is going to frame you in whichever way they want to, and you're going to be And the public is going to see you by your opposition's framing. And that's precisely what happened.
Well, when, Dr. King is the most eloquent on this, and I don't remember the exact speech, but he says, when the white man said, well, how do I feed my family? They fed him Jim Crow. When the white man said, how am I going to have a voice and why should I accept my place? They fed him Jim Crow. And what King diagnosed was that systemic racism was the answer to massive inequality.
Yeah.
And what we need to do is build a kind of movement that Dr. King was building with Bayard Rustin and the freedom movement that Jesse Jackson was building, that had white working class, black working class, Latino, people wealthy or not, who believe that you can have a multiracial democracy with dignity for everyone and not just wealth concentrated in the hands of a few who have impunity. And to get it back to Epstein, the ultimate impunity is if you feel you can rape young girls and get away with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Khanna, for coming on.
Thank you.
And giving us your time on this otherwise very busy Saturday.
I love it.
Assume.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, to you as well. All right. Okay. Here we go. I'm going to put this over here. All right. And we are going to continue with our coverage right now. Thank you. All right, here it is. The Happy Santa is back. And for all of those who are watching from afar, this is why there's a difference between someone like myself and whoever your favorite content creator might be in the realm of politics. Okay? It was actually quite remarkable seeing having this conversation with Khanna, especially considering that we had a multiple previous conversations and seeing that attitude change in real time. In comparison to the DNC conversation that we had is actually pretty cool to see. Okay. Yeah. What a time to be alive, huh, folks? What a time to be alive. Anyway, a YouTube video showing the comparisons. Yeah. I mean, he was when I said Israel was doing a genocide at that time, and I'm not saying this to like dunk on him or anything like that. But at the time when I said Israel was committing a genocide, he was like, well, I wouldn't use those words, right? And that was during the DNC. And he was, as I also admitted in that conversation, one of the most, at the time, open, outspoken anti-Israel politicians. Very interesting stuff. Do you know I score your guess out? I have people here that do that for me now, okay? He cooked here. Oh my God, look at his face. No, the reason why I was laughing. The reason why I was laughing here is because, like, I think a lot of ball knowers know. I was smiling because I was like, I was recalling the conversation that we had.
It's kind of corrupt system to the Iraq War, which was wrong. It led to us at 20 years in Afghanistan. It led to the overthrow of Libya, which was a total foreign policy blunder. It led to supporting of Netanyahu and the genocide which the Israeli government committed in Gaza. And a blank check. And I was one of the few politicians who stood up and said no to the $14 billion and who has gotten on Delia Ramirez's.
Yeah, we collectively got hard right there, bro. And I know you did too. Wait, what? Oh, yeah. No, it's cool to see. It's cool to see the difference. And for the record, I think Roe has seen the response from the public to the ways that he is talking about these issues now. Okay? Did you show Khanna your foot? No. But once again, when people ask me, Hassan, why do you do the things that you do, regardless of how much people yell at you or say this or that? How do you stick around? It's because of this, because I have convictions. So all of these things that people throw my way are hurdles, certainly, but hurdles I can climb, hurdles I can clear, because at the end of the day, what I care about more than anything else is moving American policy in a positive direction that helps people, that improves people's lives, uncompromising, unconditionally, okay? And if I were to give up or be at the mercy of my chat or be at the mercy of naysayers from either to the left flank of me or to my right, which is pretty much damn near the entirety of the fucking American political spectrum, I would just quit. I would have to quit. I would not be able to achieve any of the fucking results that I want to achieve. Slowly but surely, these things happen. And a big part of the reason why I'm able to do this is because of my community as well. You can't climb shit right now? Okay, well, I physically can't. You're right. Everyone is making fun of my ankle. But this is how you chip away and expand the permission structure in the leftmost position, okay? This chat would have had you swear off, Roe, after the DNC convo. Look how much he's grown. Exactly. That's it. That's why I do the things that I do, okay? I need you to understand. The reason why I'm bringing this up right now is so you understand next time you're like, why is Hassan doing this? Is he betraying the revolutionary cause? Just remember this, okay? Remember this attitude change. Remember that, you know, it's still good to have certain allies in positions like this, because when you're in these sorts of rooms and you are uncompromising and you do actually say the truth, you have to realize that they do sometimes listen. Okay, they do. When we do that, the Fran Hong, that interview was amazing. Oh yeah, no, we're working on that too. She's dope. I'm excited to have her on the broadcast too. Anyway, so sometimes I understand it's hard. It's if you're a leftist, it's hard. You feel as though apparently you got glazed by what? 40K Roaches for the first time ever heard you speak uninterrupted for an hour. Roach King glazed you to basically the entire chat, the entire time, and chat was agreeing. Yeah, I mean, we'll get back to business as usual tomorrow. Don't worry. The reality of the matter is, if they were to actually listen to me uninterrupted, they would probably recognize that there are a lot of issues that they totally have misunderstood my position on. The drama piggies could not stop talking about Asma the entire time you were interviewing a sitting politician. Yeah, what do you want me to do? Fucking talk about Asmongold when I'm having a conversation with Khanna about how what his current positions are on a lot of these issues, especially when this is a fairly impactful moment in his political career as well, where the entire country is paying attention to what Roe and Thomas Massey are going to do next, as far as like holding the administration to account with the release of the Epstein files. Come on now.
Photographs, some graphic and heavily redacted, but without
anyway,
context
I'm gonna
about
pee
what
real quick
any of
and I'll
this
be back.
means. The big question: will the files reveal a list of powerful men who took part in Epstein's sexual abuse of teenage girls? The FBI insisted there is no list, and initially said there was no evidence that could lead them to charge anyone else with crimes. President Trump had a long friendship with Epstein, White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles describing them as sort of young single playboys together. Trump says he and Epstein eventually had a falling out.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. I threw him out of my club many years ago because I thought he was a sick pervert.
The White House Chief of Staff says Trump's name comes up in the files, but not doing anything awful. I sat down with Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who was also the president's criminal defense attorney.
Will every document that mentions President Trump, every picture of him, every video, every bit of information related to him in these files be released today or at some point in this process?
Assuming it's consistent with the law, yes. So there's no effort to hold anything back because there's the name Donald J. Trump or anybody else's name, Bill Clinton's name, Reid Hoffman's name. There's no effort to hold back or not hold back because of that. And so, but again, we're not redacting the names of famous men and women that are associated with Epstein.
To be clear, you're saying DOJ has not been ordered to redact anything related to President Trump, that there's no order to do such?
No, I mean, I would give the order. President Trump has certainly said from the beginning that he expects all files that can be released to be released, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Trump has tried to turn the focus to Epstein's relationship with Democrats like former President Bill Clinton. Friday's release includes some never-before-seen images of Clinton and Epstein together. This picture of Clinton in a jacuzzi, and this one of him swimming with Epstein's accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell. But Clinton has not been accused of wrongdoing. In fact, the White House Chief of Staff told Vanity Fair there's no incriminating information about Clinton in the files, saying Trump was wrong about that. Clinton putting out a statement through a spokesperson overnight saying, in part, they can release as many grainy 20-plus-year-old photos as they want. This isn't about Bill Clinton, never has, never will be. Gio?
Fascinating stuff there, Pierre. And why is there a delay in releasing all of these documents?
The deputy AG told me the full release has been delayed because DOJ learned of additional victim names this week. He said protecting the identities of more than
1,200 victims and their families is painstaking work. Despite whatever criticism is out there, he says they are.
Sure. Yeah, it's just about protecting the identities of the victims, right? And the greatest victim of all, Donald Trump. You see, Donald Trump is the big victim here, right? That's the real victim in all of this, not the 1,200 women who may have been sex trafficked as minors, not the massage therapists, not the people, just Donald Trump. Little old Donald Trump, and also the other financial elite that were involved in these crimes. Those are the fucking real victims. Tim Dillon shouted you out in his latest podcast. I don't know why he won't, he could just text me. He has my phone number, and I have his. I heard some people were saying he wants to come on or something. Apparently, at least 16 files were removed without explanation. Yeah, also none of the redactions also have an explanation either, which is why it's so crazy. Because the redactions, every single individual redaction has some intention behind it, okay? And what's interesting about this is that there is only a blanket assessment on why all the redactions took place, except that is against the way that the act was written. Because Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie and everyone else that played a role in putting this bill together knew exactly how the Trump administration would try to get away with this, right? So they very clearly wrote out in the fucking letter of the law that every single redaction must be accompanied by what the actual reason for the redaction is. Internal Department of Justice communications, including emails, memos, meeting notes concerning decisions to charge, not charge, investigative or to decline to investigate Epstein or his associations. All communications, memoranda, directives, logs, or metadata concerning the destruction, deletion, alteration, misplacement, or concealment of documents, recordings, or electronic data related to Epstein, his associates, his detention, his death, any investigative files. They were also supposed to direct the DOJ to provide internal communications regarding their decisions versus the DOJ letter to Congress asserting privilege to omit materials related to decisions because they weren't specified by law. So they are in violation of that. What? No, Tim Dillon was making a joke about how the Republican Party is cooked, and he said something along the lines of, that's it, go give money to Hassan Piker. He also says similar things about Mamdani. The felon administration doesn't follow the law. Yeah, it's a remarkable surprise to me and everyone else, I think, because I really thought that the 35 count, I really thought the felon administration, who is, who is led by the personal bestie of Jeffrey Epstein, would actually be the truth tellers here, and they would actually crack open this case wide open, and lo and behold, shocking. But they're not. They're not doing that.
Complying with the law, and that the work will get done. Janae?
Very interesting that you said DOJ just learned the names of additional victims this week, Pierre. Thank you for your reporting.
President Trump did not address Friday's long-awaited release of files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. The Justice Department began releasing thousands of records.
What does this call Hassan Piker?
Like when I first did a investigation.
And he has red, white, and blue socks on. Call Hassan Piker. Go just donate us. Just give Hassan Piker a super chat right now.
What?
Call that retarded Withers, whatever his name is, those fucking twinks from Colorado that live in a mountain that keep screaming. Okay, maybe we won't go that far, but I'm just saying this. It's just absurd. Anyway, get them out of here. I can't even listen. Can't even listen to them. Let me tell you something. And you.
What the fuck? He's saying the administration's so cooked. It's time for fucking woke to rise up again, baby. Let's go. The Colorado twinks, Dean Withers. And then he said, no, I wouldn't go that far. Oh, that was Tim Dillon complaining about the administration flubbing yet another instance, flubbing yet another investigation.
Following
but he's right. The Piker Broadcasting Service is sponsored by you, the viewers. For you, the viewers. The fact that he knows you. What do you mean? Tim Dillon has been giving me shout outs for years, constantly complaining about how much I was getting canceled, how he never got canceled and it was annoying him. The fuck do you mean? Woke 2, baby. Woke 2.0 is here, okay? I'm telling you, a lot of shifts are going to happen. They're already happening. Shifts are happening all around us, okay? And I called it, and I told you, and obviously I told you that it wasn't going to happen without people pushing for it. And here you are pushing for it. Obviously, we're not going to step on the same landmines that maybe Woke 1.0 stepped on, because there was some growing pains, you know what I mean? 50 bones from Legal Heretic, by the way. Thank you. Thank you so much. Are you declaring woke? I mean, woke Sharia has been my rallying cry for the longest time. Woke jihad, woke Sharia. This is what I've been about. Because the unlimited, unrestrained, endless reactionary posture is so repulsive to the average person, brother. Because these guys are fucking rudderless. All they care about is like dominating libtards or whatever, or being able to say slurs. And the reality of the matter is that gets really boring after a while. That gets really gross after a while. And we're there. People are already going, ugh, dude, you're like a 50-year-old man. Why the hell are you still talking about how you're able to say slurs or whatever? There is, genocide happening around the world. There is the Trump administration is bombing Venezuela. Entertaining the notion of doing an Iraq 2.0 in Venezuela this time. Prices have not gone down. People can't afford shit. And data centers are popping up all around the country. And it's making electricity bills skyrocket. And you're over here talking about like being able to say slurs and how we're going to be really dunking on the libtards now. I promise now. Hassan, I laughed so hard when Khanna called the chat smart and complimented people's chatters, and you had to nod along even though you call us dumbasses all day. I mean, I did get my get back there because I said y'all are nerds, which is true. And of course, you're smarter than the average person that's tuning into politics. Are you kidding me? The fuck? I mean, come on now. But if I didn't bring you back down to reality every now and then without fucking constantly yelling at you, you would be ridiculous. You'd be a ridiculous person. And many of you are still ridiculous person. I did also get Khanna to accidentally say Ghislaine Maxwell.
Passage last month of the Epstein Files Transparency Act, a measure the president opposed for months before signing it into law. But as CBS News Justice correspondent Scott McFarland reports, the document dump was far from complete.
Photos this morning of many of the powerful who ran in convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's circle. Bill Clinton seems swimming in a pool with Ghislaine Maxwell and another woman with her face redacted. Clinton with another unknown woman on his lap. Celebrities, too, including Michael Jackson and Diana Ross, Epstein with Mick Jagger, and Chris Tucker with Maxwell. Many of the records are heavily redacted, survivors say suspiciously so, including Epstein grand jury records. We do see Epstein's book of contacts with the name of President Trump, his late wife, and his daughter, Ivanka. A list of girls or young women listed as masseuses keeps the names private, but shows there were more than 250.
How confident are you at the end of the day, at the end of this period, you'll get everything?
I don't feel tremendously confident that everything will come out.
Survivors, including Annie Farmer, have been fighting for years for the release of records and say they're frustrated these records are incomplete.
There's been a lot of effort and money and time put into redactions, not to protect victims, but to protect people in power.
Many of the records released have long been public already, including videos in the jail the night Epstein died, which had been...
Yeah, that came out in 2020. We know what that unredacted contact list looks like anyway, so that's not even new. There is some new stuff here. There was definitely new rare Clintons, okay? There was a couple shiny Pokemon card-ass Clinton photos in there. That is definitely real. And I think that was deliberate. Outside of, seems like outside of Bill Clinton, no other politically relevant individual, with the exception of like the rare Ehud Barak, was actually shown in these investigations at all. I wonder why. And for the record, before someone even ever dares to accuse me of defending Bubba here, lock his ass up, put him in jail. I've been an advocate to throw Bill Clinton in jail for many, many years, okay? Put Hillary in there too. Fuck it. I don't give a shit. Make my day. Go ahead. Make my fucking day. I despise both of these individuals. I hate their politics. I hate the impact that they've had on American politics, and also I hate the potential crimes that they were engaging in. Okay? Investigate them, lock them up. I don't give a shit. But, you know, put Donald Trump in there too. Fair is fair.
Obtained months ago by CBS News. The Department of Justice sent Congress a letter Friday night defending what they released, saying they were being transparent but also protecting victims. But the bipartisan group that pushed through this law is not satisfied.
Was just watching Asmongold watching you and reacting to the interview, and he's very supportive overall and agree with everything except we shouldn't be ruthlessly deporting migrants. He's definitely feeling the tide shift. Yeah, he'll feel the fucking migrant deportation tide shift too. It's an inevitability. It's just that the media hasn't been like really covering that approach, even though the overall public sentiment has shifted there as well. Asmongold needs to feel a shower head. Oh, it's true. Yeah, Asmongold is Asmon woke now.
They're calling for hearings and potential legal challenges to force the department to release more. For CBS Saturday Morning, Scott McFarlane, Washington.
They have been released then, after so long, the Epstein files. Or some of them, at least. This was Epstein's world, through files held for so long by the Justice Department, now unsealed. Or at least the first batch of them. Thousands of documents, about 4,000 in this.
Stop shitting on him, he's changing. I really think he's coming around. Oh my God. Brother, we are never gonna have progress, I swear to God. I'm sorry, people are so fucking stupid. People are so fucking stupid, dude. This man spent the last 2 years every single fucking day complaining about how I was a terrorist, an anti-Semitic terrorist who needs to be deplatformed, who was putting the entire Twitch platform in the crosshairs of who? Of Asmongold, ironically enough. Asmongold-backed outrage manufacturing. You think overnight he changed? Really? He's got a kind heart all of a sudden? Okay, we'll see the switch up. If he starts admitting that he was wrong about me, if he starts admitting that he was wrong about all the things that he was advocating for, you know, I'll potentially entertain it. Okay? I just don't think that is a sincere change. I think he's just basically seeing the attitude shift, and he is trying to manage his own community. Okay? This is a political actor who has spent most of his political output attacking me ruthlessly in an effort to present me as an unserious or dangerous individual. Okay, and many in his audience actually agreed with him, using Islamophobic sentiment. A person who has fomented so much hatred, not just against me, but just against entire marginalized communities. And he was always very open about it too. He's like, yeah, I'm doing whatever I can to get by. I'm doing whatever I can to you know, I'm doing whatever I can to generate as much clout. It's not like he was shy about it. Yeah, he has openly talked about how he's doing this to benefit himself. And that's precisely the reason why I always said he doesn't have like a lot of firmly held convictions on any of the political issues that he's talking about. And that's precisely the reason why he can present his new attitude shift as a sincere change of heart, while simultaneously saying that like people like myself are fucking grifters or audience captured, even though I spent every waking hour yelling at my own audience for being insane, or even you can literally look at the past 12 years of my commentary where you haven't seen my opinions change. As a matter of fact, the reason why this Ro Khanna thing was so entertaining, at least for me and many in my community, is partially because every single thing that I said to Ro Khanna at the DNC has unfolded in the exact same ways that I said it would unfold. And Ro Khanna is now on my side. Like, he moved in my direction, bar for bar. Go back and literally rewatch that interview at the DNC with me and Ro Khanna, and then match it up against Ro Khanna's positions now, and you will understand. Okay?
First release. So our team has gone through them, and I'm going to split this up into several strands. The celebrities, the victims, the redactions. The celebrities first. We know that Jeffrey Epstein socialized widely. His network spanned the arts, business, politics, royalty, high society. And so association with him does not equate to wrongdoing. There are images of him with Michael Jackson. He's also photographed with Diana Ross and former President Bill Clinton. He features a lot in this dump of images. His association with Epstein is well known, and he is on record expressing his regret at having ever known him. Clinton is photographed in the files with Kevin Spacey too. There's an image of Mick Jagger with Ghislaine Maxwell. None of these photos have any context to them. We don't know.
Like, you understand that he's not actually on your side, though, right? Because he's an establishment Dem. Him echoing your rhetoric rather lukewarmly doesn't mean much. You're delusional if you think that that is the case. Not to say that he's not like a Democrat, but there is obviously a left flank within the Democratic Party right now that is sincerely advocating for certain policies that I would love to see implemented, because I know it will generally improve people's material conditions. Medicare for all being one of them. And no, I don't think he was lukewarm in a lot of this stuff. But this is precisely what I was explaining earlier. This is how change happens, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. That's my whole point. Do you not understand? By the way, this is yet another instance of me yelling at people who are, or criticizing people who are to the left, ostensibly to my left flank, for not understanding that, like, there are things that you need to do to establish coalitions and get people on board with your message. And this is perhaps the worst possible time to say this, because a big part of the reason why we're seeing even the fraction of the files that we've seen so far from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation is because of Ro Khanna and Thomas Massie. Okay? And yeah, I don't think these are guys to my left flank necessarily. I think they're just like they're just kind of oblivious to how change happens. It's going to continue, for the record. Guess who's trying to roast you through your recent comments to his videos? Asman? I don't care. Okay? He's going to continue doing that until more and more people from his audience peel away, and actually more and more people from his audience peel away and move on to different people or to different politics, because there's only so much anti-woke sentiment you can lean into until people realize, like, okay, my financial situation hasn't changed. Like, okay, we're fucking fighting the trans people. We're fighting the wokes. We're fighting all the wokes, but like, my rent is still going up. My job prospects are in the shitter. Okay? There's only so much you can propagandize to a population that is feeling the pain. Okay? That's it. And when that fucking happens, more and more people will peel away. Maybe some of them will come here. The ones who weren't like so negatively propagandized against, right? But ultimately, it doesn't even matter if they don't come here. As long as they become loyal soldiers of progress in this country, I'm happy to have them on board. They can follow along.
Who took them or when they were taken. But remember, they are all part of the Epstein estate, seized over the years and sealed until now. Here's a picture of Sarah Ferguson, ex-wife, of course, of Andrew, formerly Prince Andrew, and he features too. This is an image of the former prince lying across several women. The only other person identified in this document is Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, we've cross-referenced this photo with other photos, and it was taken at the late Queen's home, Sandringham, in the UK. Of course, Andrew was friends with Epstein and Maxwell. He settled financially out of court with Virginia Giuffre, who had accused him of sexual assault. He's always denied any wrongdoing. Let's focus now on the victims of Epstein and Maxwell's abuse and how their story can be told through these files.
Yeah,
here's an image of two young women, perhaps girls, we can't be sure, in Paris. Their identity has been hidden. The Department of Justice says it redacted more than 1,200 names or images of victims and their relatives. We know from existing testimony from victims like Virginia Giuffre that Epstein took girls he recruited on trips, including to Paris. They were often recruited with the promise that they would become masseuses, and this image here nods to that. But within these files, there are new court documents detailing how Epstein and Maxwell recruited their victims. Some of the documents are already in the public domain. This is evidence that formed part of the case of a victim identified only as Jane Doe 3. Message pads to convey missed messages for Epstein. They span 2004 and 2005. Two of them read, "I have a female for him." But there are redactions, so we don't know who left the messages or who wrote them down.
Yeah, like, is that a victim? Because Jeffrey Epstein did oftentimes utilize victims as well to bring in new people, bring in new girls. Or was that a pimp, an adult, not a victim at all, who was tasked with finding new victims for Jeffrey Epstein? This is the type of shit that is very frustrating, okay? And it's so insincere. The way that these guys straight up made it seem as though they were redacting exclusively the victims to protect their identity while simultaneously protecting actual fucking pedophiles is insane, dude. It's incredible. And what blows my mind about it is that there are some people who are, you know, doing this now, okay, in the MAGA contingency. I think it's safe to say the Epstein files kind of backfired on the Democrats. Yeah, totally, man. Totally. This is about Democrats versus Republicans, right? No, man, this is about everybody versus pedophiles, okay? You have a literal pedophile protecting president who is besties with the pedophile that we're talking about, whose Department of Justice spent most of the time in between now and 30 days ago trying to actively delete his image from all of the fucking files. And they unironically left some of it on accident and then only went back and deleted it after the fact when people were like, oh, there's Donald Trump right there. It's so out in the open. You have to be a real fucking lobotomy recipient to not see what's going on here. Like, what the fuck? Are you kidding me? Get out of here. 90% redacted.
Then there's this. It appears to be a sort of scrapbook, storybook, similar to the birthday book, which was released a few months ago. It's heavily redacted, and it's very disturbing, to be honest. At the top here, once upon a time, there was a clueless little girl, it reads. Have a look at this too. It's an incident report from the Palm Beach Police Department. The common location for all the incidents detailed is 358.
At least 16 files from the Epstein release disappear from the DOJ webpage, including a photo of Trump with no explanation. I think we know the explanation. You know? That's crazy, man. That's actually fucking crazy. They're just so... What did I tell you? What did I fucking tell you? You can't rely on the Democrats, but you can always bank on this administration fucking things up. Okay? What did I tell you? I told you these motherfuckers are so goddamn incompetent. I told you. You can always bank on it, okay? No Kelshi, no Poly Market, but you can always put the fucking house on this admin finding a way to fuck this up. They are so goddamn incompetent. They're immoral. They're loyalists to Trump, but they're so fucking incompetent that they're always going to fuck it up. At least 16 files have disappeared from the Justice Department's public webpage for documents related to Jeffrey Epstein, including a photograph showing Trump less than a day after they were posted with no explanation from the government and no notice to the public. I'm sure people will map out exactly which ones those documents were, by the way. And it'll show you even more. It'll give you even more insight into how the DOJ is moving here, what their ambition is here, what they're trying to fucking hide. I mean, one of the most obvious things that they were trying to do with the redactions was redacting Donald Trump in its entirety from the fucking Epstein files. And they did such a stupid job at it. Like, the smart thing to do here would have been to at least like leave some clear new Trump photos, at least to not invite so much suspicion that they were just like eradicating Trump. Control F Trump and just like delete everything. Okay? The worst possible thing they could have done is delete a photo of Trump that they failed to redact last time. That is crazy. It's so obvious what you're doing. It's that the cover-up is now a part of the crime. What the fuck did you think was going to happen? Yeah. Also, this is why the law said downloadable and searchable. They didn't do it. Now they delete shit. Yep. Is this criminal? Yes. Except, as I've said over and over again, criminality is not necessarily about following the letter of the law, but more so about whether or not there's a regulatory body that will hold you to account. And obviously, the fucking insane asylum is being run by the nutters. Okay? So they're not going to investigate themselves. They're the ones that are doing the crime. The investigators and the people who are supposed to prosecute against such crimes are the ones doing the crimes. They also redacted face on a Clinton plus MJ image that wasn't previously redacted. They redacted MJ's kids' faces. Yeah. Oh my God. I think this is going to move people. I do think so. Because this is Trump's weakest. This is Trump's the weakest thing, right? This is the thing that people hate about Trump. Even Trump's own fans do not like the way he has mishandled the Epstein stuff, the way he has actively tried to shelter the public from the Epstein investigation, and the way he's conducted himself, in the process. Here are the list of files that were removed. They failed to delete the indexes. Okay, well, I don't know. Can you guys find it? The normies already hate it. Critical put a video out. Of course. Who other than Megyn Kelly is going to take the opposite pivot here and try to normalize pedophilia? That is insane. Okay? Most people are at least of sound mind enough to recognize that they shouldn't be running around saying that they're pro-pedophilia. Stop, not the normie whisperer. Of course the normie whisperer is going to come out with an anti-Epstein video. Are you kidding me? It's the most normal position you can have. My dad finally flipped off Trump today because of all this. Hell yeah. Take it where you can get it. Take the W's where you can get it. Don't be like insincere about genuine attitude shifts. It's obviously not the same if we're talking about like a conservative commentary person, right? Obviously, people who are engaging in the propaganda at the behest of this administration are totally in a separate category here. Members of the media are in a separate category here. They need to be met with more scrutiny. Okay. However, if you're talking about your parents or any number of different people in your immediate family, your coworkers, stuff like that, them changing their attitude on this is good. Okay, that's a good thing. Just don't immediately don't dunk on them is what I'm saying. Okay, don't just like try to shit on them. It's good. Claims there were serious ethical breaches by the prosecutors. Talks about how seriously Ken, apparently Epstein's attorney Ken Starr, takes the Bible and the law, a man of great faith. Appears to refer to Assistant U.S. Attorney Mary Willafana. Doesn't want to create a written record. Refers to Alan Dershowitz and Ken working Washington to drop the Fed charges. Appears to address U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. So this was one of the suspicious. It's fucking impossible to read this shit, unfortunately, but this was a letter. This was a typed out letter that apparently was addressed to U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta. Okay. Some of the text under the redacted bars is copy pastable, by the way. Haven't seen anyone cover that. Several full victim names in SSN. Not bullshitting. They fucked up. Wait, really? No. Okay. What they deleted. I used the command line tools to compare Epstein tranche, dataset 1-zip, downloaded approximately 8 p.m. yesterday. For the same tranche, downloaded approximately 5 p.m. today. It revealed the files that have been deleted. And it's apparently, hold on, I'm going to do a cursory glance at what the files were that were deleted so I can, to make sure that there isn't anything like crazy in there. Some of these are potentially, well, some of these are censored for nudity. Some of these might be censored for, wait, what the fuck? Why did they censor this? This is the massage chair thing, the massage chair and the Epstein, one of the Epstein Manors. Oh, then this is the obvious one that we talked about already, the Trump image that was deleted. And then this one, I don't know why they deleted this. There's also like baby oil everywhere, dude. What the fuck is up with these guys in baby oil? Actually, one of the things that I've also found very strange about this whole process is like when you get this deeper insight into the living conditions of Jeffrey Epstein, or even like the quarters of someone like this. You get to understand them from afar, albeit in a more personal way. That's fucking Astroglide. That's for fucking. Okay, that's insane. Like, he had Astroglide on his desk next to a goddamn landline phone. Like, that's crazy. But the one thing that I always found so interesting about the way he chose to live, his New York mansion was more lived in as opposed to the island. The island was not inviting at all. Then the New York mansion was not inviting either. But the island itself looked so crazy. Like, for someone as wealthy as Jeffrey Epstein, it always is remarkable that the island was so bare bones. You know, it was so like the furniture was so, even this right here, like, this is so cheap. You know, it was so like the New York mansion is more lived in, but it's more tacky. The island, on the other hand, was so focused on almost this like performance, right? Like, it looked very thrown together with like the cheapest things that you could possibly put together. I like, there were beds without bed frames. You know what I mean? It's like very odd. There is definitely a marked difference between, like, a noticeable difference between the New York mansion, where he spent most of his time living, versus Little St. James Island. But when you looked at like the Little St. James Island and the inside of the Little St. James Island rooms, I know the word you're searching for, but I'm not telling you what it is. Okay, tell me what the word I'm searching for. Say it. It's almost austere. The Little St. James Island, like, it's very cheap and hastily put together and not lived in, right? There is no like New York is gaudy. Little St. James is just very like, Little St. James was designed like it was put together at the last second with like the cheapest furniture you could probably put together. Yeah, it would look like the fucking back rooms almost. Like, very purpose specific, very purpose built. Both are unsettling in different ways. Austere. Yes, sterile, austere, very liminal. Anyway, this is this is from the massage room in the New York Manor, though. You can tell like when something is from the New York Manor as opposed to photos from the island too, because of like even the furniture that they're using and the artwork that's presented. I wonder why they deleted this one. Mostly just this photo. I wonder if it's this image that was the reason why they deleted it. Well, speculating on the psychology of how Epstein operated, this is classic narcissistic performance behavior. Creating a narrative is how these people almost lack any actual chairs. Interesting, however. Yeah, no, it's everything is a performance, obviously. Every aspect of this, every aspect of design actually feeds into a psychological profile, because like these decisions they're making, whether it's hastily put together or not, is still offering insight into the mind of Jeffrey Epstein or the people that he hired. But even the decision that he made to hire the people that he hired to do the interior decoration is still going to give you some insight. And the artwork, I think, is a very great example of this. If you notice, like, a lot of the artwork is like creepy. A lot of the artwork is mostly women. A lot of the artwork that he posts all around his house is just like scary almost. Like, and then beyond that, the photos of actual people is always Jeffrey Epstein himself with very famous people. So it's very clear that he was like using other notable individuals as a jump off point to present himself as like someone in the know, someone in these circles. Because he's not homies with the fucking Pope. Why does he have a photo with the Pope? He's not homies with MBS like that. Why does he have a photo with MBS? Normal circumstances, you put people, you put your loved ones in fucking frames and you display them. But for him, it was always a display of power, right? And it wasn't even just a display of power that he wanted to showcase to other people. Okay, it was a display of power that he wanted to reassert for himself. Like he wanted to reinforce that as well. Because if you notice, like, especially in the photo that we saw earlier that was deleted, where is it? This one in the desk drawer. A lot of the photos, if you look at Jeffrey Epstein's, like some of the photos of Jeffrey Epstein with like notable people, is unironically forward facing. It's outward facing. It's to show other people, like, these are the people that I'm around. But then there are some that are also facing him. So he's making the deliberate decision to look back at those photos and remind himself or reinforce this notion that this is who he is. This is who he's around. This is the extensive power that he had. It's a very, very strange thing to do. Anyway, what are your thoughts on Fidel Castro being photographed with Jeffrey Epstein? He don't got internet. What do you mean? He don't got internet, man. The fuck? I think that's a little bit different than like Noam Chomsky, who like extensively had relations with Jeffrey Epstein, far beyond what we initially suspected. He was too weird to have a family, so the only attempt he made was asking Ghislaine to have him get one of his victims pregnant to assumingly abuse. So Epstein was a strange guy? Is that what you're saying? Pretty far-fetched if I say so myself. Yes, that is the argument I'm making. I'm saying that Jeffrey Epstein was a strange man. Very quirky guy, not to use such heated language, but I kind of feel like he wasn't a very good guy, okay? Kind of feel like he was a strange man with quirks and maybe wasn't the best guy around. Hard to make this judgment here, but a bit quirked up, a lot of oddities. So, unlike the numerous photos that came out of Jeffrey Epstein with Noam Chomsky that makes Noam Chomsky look bad, the one photo that he has with Fidel Castro doesn't actually make Fidel Castro look bad. It probably lends more further evidence to the theory that he might have been an intelligence asset. The excessive photos could be trophies, which aren't uncommon in the realm of criminology. Killers and pedophiles often will keep tokens of those they had power over. No, I think this was also the showcase to other people, like what level of power he had. He wanted to display it to others as well. But yeah, still fucking insane that he just, what is this now? Why the fuck would the Epstein files be fun? This is getting too dark. This is not fun. Yeah, a lot of these guys I think are showing exactly what their opinion is on a lot of the stuff, like Autism Capital and all these other fucking right-wing dipshits. They're like, oh, this is not fun. I'm not having fun anymore. Mr. Stark is like, why would the fucking international sex trafficking conspiracy be a fun thing, a fun event? Very odd takes. I've seen a bunch of the people, have takes like that. I've seen a bunch of the people who approach this from a totally partisan perspective to make it seem like this is a complete vindication for Donald Trump. It's very stupid.
El Brio Way. That's Epstein's home. It names Epstein as one of 3 people arrested. The names of the other 2 have been redacted, and it's not clear why that decision was made. Over many pages, it then details the testimony of numerous victims, many of them labelled as juveniles. This file contains a number of redacted images of females. We can't say why the redactions have taken place. The rationale for the redactions is not clear in all circumstances with these documents, and that is a really big issue because there are so many black lines. Have a look at this document, grand jury testimony, and the whole thing, 119 pages, all of it is black. Now, some redactions are to protect victims, but are they all? With every black line, someone will cry cover up, and the conspiracy rumbles on. There are inconsistencies too. Here is a redaction, but then here, video of the same moment, and the hidden person is revealed to be academic Steven Pinker, who says he once travelled on Epstein's plane and had no relationship with him. Quite remarkably, there is a disclaimer at the top of the Department of Justice website saying that they might inadvertently have failed in places to redact information, and that hardly conveys a confidence of a job well done. There is no new mention of President Trump in this fresh batch of documents. The president, remember, says he disassociated himself from Epstein in the early 2000s. The Department of Justice has said that it will release thousands more documents in the weeks ahead.
Now to what is being called a large-scale strike by the United States against dozens of targets in Syria. The Trump administration says it is targeting.
Oh, bullshit. He was part of the anti-feminist science professor team Epstein pushed. I mean, yeah, a lot of the was this grand jury info public before? I doubt that they no, this is from 2018. I don't know. But I suspect that this came out yesterday, right? There's no way that the United States Grand Jury, Southern District of New York, it came out yesterday. There's new files today. Some of it is new. Wait, try highlighting and copying the black text. No, you can't. It's not. Yes, it's in the directory dataset 206 if you look at the URL. Wait, was this blacked out yesterday, but it's not? New York released, NY released it. Trump redacted illegally. Yep, second round of docs got released a couple of hours ago. I don't recall this. Wait, search Trump? I mean, this is the newer one. This is the newer grand jury. This is the newer grand jury indictment from Southern District of New York. I don't think Trump would be mentioned that much in this, even though he was president at the time. Yes, I did see that they missed covering Trump in one of the photos, and then they deleted that photo haphazardly earlier today. The first release yesterday was up to dataset 204. They released more later. Okay, so everything that came after 204 is new. So this is the new stuff. They released datasets 5, 6, and 7 today. Why are they drip feeding the documents? They're drip feeding the documents because they're just going through they're going through every single thing to like use the fucking highlighter pen as heavy-handedly as possible. Good afternoon, Special Agent Bleep. Good afternoon. Could you please state your full name? Special Agent. Where do you currently work? The FBI. Special Agent. How long have you worked as a Special Agent? For over 2 years. Where are you currently assigned? The Violent Crimes Against Children Squad. Agent is works in child exploitation and human trafficking matters. We also work international and parental kidnappings. Have you participated in an investigation of Jeffrey Epstein and his associates? He says yes. Have you spoken with other people, including other law enforcement officers? Yes. Have you reviewed reports and documents? Yes. Testimony. Miss Bleep. So, ladies and gentlemen, some of the testimony you're going to hear today will include hearsay. As you know, that means the witness will not be testifying solely from her own observations, but that she'll also be reporting on others. Special Agent, I'm placing in front of you what's been marked as Grand Jury Exhibit 1. Do you recognize that? It's a presentation that was prepared to assist in testifying today. During the course of your investigation, have you learned where Epstein maintains residences? Yes. Where does he have residences? He has a residence here in Manhattan, along with Palm Beach, Virgin Islands, and New Mexico. New Mexico one is called the Zorro Ranch, by the way. Does he maintain an address in Manhattan located at 9 East 71st Street? Yes. If we could turn to slide 2, does that fairly and accurately depict the residence? Could you please describe that property for the grand jury? It's a multi-story residence. It's reportedly the largest residence in Manhattan. It's right near Central Park. Does Epstein also maintain an address in Palm Beach, Florida, located at 358 El Brillo Way? Yes. It's a villa in Palm Beach, right on the water, has an in-ground pool along with a guest residence or apartment connected to it. Asking about the witnesses. Did she tell you approximately how old she was when both of these photographs? Okay, well, witnesses you've interviewed during your investigation. During the course of this investigation, have you participated in interviews with an individual named Redacted? Agent says yes. For today's purpose, I'm just going to refer to her as Redacted. About how many times have you interviewed her? We've spoken to her approximately 5 times. Turn to the next slide. Are these photographs of Redacted? Yes. Did she tell you approximately how old she was when both of these photographs were taken? Yes. What did she tell you? The photo on the left, she was approximately 13 years old. And the photo on the right, she would have been 17 years old. What is Redacted's date of birth? And these are identifiable factors about the victims. So obviously they're, redacting those. That's valid. In addition to your participation in interviews, have you also reviewed reports from other law enforcement officers who interviewed Redacted? Is your testimony today based on both of your review of those reports and also your personal participation in reviews with Jane Doe? Can you speak up a little bit about a little bit more? Thanks. Okay, so based on your participation in this investigation, have you learned where Jane Doe was living when she was about 14 years old? Yes. Where she was living? She was living in Redacted. Was she living with her parents? No, not at the time. She had a difficult home life, which is consistent with other pedophiles as well, of course. Pedophiles who specifically choose their victims of a bad home life, victims who are vulnerable, in an effort to more easily predate on them. You know, they target victims of broken families, people on the verge of homelessness, kids on the verge of homelessness, things of that nature. Was she going to school? She had started and dropped out. About when did she drop out of school? The beginning of her freshman year, a few months into her freshman year approximately. And at about this time, how was she supporting herself financially? She worked different jobs. She worked in catering halls as a waitress in restaurants and in clubs. Did there come a time when Redacted learned about Jeffrey Epstein? How did that first happen? She met a girl named Redacted who told her that she could make money if she massaged this rich guy. And when she heard from Redacted, how did she respond? She wanted to make money, so she agreed. What did she agree to? She agreed to go to his residence and massage him. Did Redacted recall how old she was when she first went to his residence? She says she was approximately 14. And just to confirm, the date of birth listed on the slide is that Redacted date of birth. So you testified that she ultimately went to his residence, the one in Manhattan. How about how many times did she go to Epstein's residence? Multiple times, dozens. During the time she went to Epstein's residence in Manhattan, did she tell you about how what typically would happen? Yes. What are some of the things that she told you about what happened there? So the first time when she went with Redacted, she entered the residence. They waited in the office until they were escorted upstairs to the massage room. Once in the massage room, Jeffrey Epstein came into the room. He lay down on the table. And once he was on the table, a girl massaged each side. And then Redacted would be asked to leave the room. The other Redacted person would stay. From there, once he turned over, he wanted his nipples pinched while he masturbated. Things progressed each additional time she went. This is, for the record, exactly what he did a million times over. Like this is again the same pattern with the ways in which he constantly pushed the boundaries. Were to 1,200 plus victims, right? As far as we know, the ones that we know of, they were underage. Some of them were not minors, but many of them were also underage at the time. And he would slowly but surely just make them do more and more and more. Remember, this is a consistent pattern of abuse, a consistent pattern of pedophilic abuse. This was some of this investigation comes from the previous one, for the record. This is being relitigated in 2018, but what's being relitigated in 2018 was actually information that they had in the previous investigation, the one that he got a sweetheart plea bargain deal on that was unheard of, okay? As Khanna said, 60 charges were brought up, and he was only charged with 2. He was convicted with 2 out of 60 charges. Because this incident is from 2002, which was, of course, part of the criminal investigation that ended in 2008 with a conviction. So, Acosta knew these things. He read through these investigations and then allowed him to roam free to continue abusing people. And not just Acosta, but like Alan Dershowitz was obviously Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer. He negotiated that plea deal very effectively. So Trump is mentioned here having sex with underage girls. No, you mean you're talking about the 14-year-old, right? He wasn't mentioned as having sex with the. Send me the link. That's not a. Oh, this is the Ghislaine Maxwell one. This is where Trump was mentioned multiple times. Yeah. This is, I think this is a deposition, right? Filed under seal. This firm represents intervener Professor Alan Dershowitz, and we write in anticipation of the party's forthcoming motion practice concerning the confidentiality of Sarah Ransom deposition. Intervener requests that if the court allows plaintiff Virginia Giuffre to remove the confidentiality designation concerning the Ransom deposition, an action that will require modification of the protective order in this case, it also simultaneously remove the confidentiality designation from several related emails. The emails will demonstrate that Ms. Ransom's inflammatory, salacious, and defamatory testimony regarding the intervener and others is false and that the deponent is not credible. Absent this relief, Ms. Ransom's unrebuted testimony will gravely prejudice intervener by publishing deliberate lies calculated to harm his reputation. Counsel for Ms. Giuffre has not indicated whether she consents to removing the confidentiality designation from the emails, and counsel has indicated that Ms. Giuffre is not sure whether she will seek to remove the confidentiality designation from Ransom's deposition, notwithstanding her prior letter requesting that relief privately. Nevertheless, we write in an abundance of caution and to avoid the risk of decontextualized and one-sided disclosure. This was the testimony I will make sure that neither that evil bitch Hillary or that pedophile Trump gets elected. I will also make sure that everyone on the goddamn planet sees that footage and photos, and we'll release them to WikiLeaks by Sunday. I will take down Epstein and his bunch of fuck with cronies myself. I have also gone to the Russian newspaper. This is one of the victims, Miss Ransom, and these are her statements and emails. And the reason why they're using these statements is to say she was not a credible witness, and that her testimony should be sealed. Yeah, the first mention of Trump is here. Her testimony was fabricated from whole cloth. Ms. Ransom's testimony also contains a slew of other incendiary claims concerning the sexual proclivities of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, and other prominent individuals. Clinton and Trump must pay for what they did to us, as must the rest of the men that were involved in their seedy inner circle. Another friend was one of the many girls that had sexual relations with Donald Trump. She confided in me about her casual friendship with Donald. Mr. Trump definitely seemed to have a thing for her, and she told me how he kept going on about how he liked her pert nipples. Donald Trump liked flicking and sucking her nipples until they were raw. One evening, when we were showering together, she showed me her nipples. They looked incredibly painful as they were red, swollen, and I remember wincing when I looked at them. I also know she has sexual relations with Trump at Jeffrey's New York mansion on regular occasions, as I once met Jen for coffee, just before she was going to meet Trump and Epstein together at his mansion. I've already corresponded with the Moscow police and aid them in stopping Hillary or Trump getting through. I will film my own interview with the subject and post it on every single. Yeah, these are emails from Sarah Ransom to Maureen Callahan. But given that this was like, I think the reason why they don't mind showing this stuff is because it was like struck from the record, I guess. So they're like, they were saying that she was not a credible witness. I'm not entirely sure about what happened with Sarah Ransom, so I don't know. This shit is wild. They try to cover it up, but then do this anyway. Film director Brett Ratner, who was accused by several women of harassment during Me Too. Brett Ratner. Women. And more recent was picked by Melania Trump to... it was Brett Ratner that did was trying to direct her new documentary. Appears in the Epstein files, clutching to a topless man. I think the topless man is Jean-Luc Brunel, if I'm not mistaken, for the record. Yeah, this is the Rush Hour guy. Okay, I have to pee real quick. I'll get back to this in a second. Here, watch this. Retaliatory strikes against ISIS in Syria.
Islamic State fighters and weapon sites. It's in retaliation for the deadly ambush in Syria that left 3 Americans dead a week ago. In a social media post, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said the goal of the strikes is to eliminate ISIS fighters, infrastructure, and weapon sites. At a campaign-style event last night in North Carolina, President Trump hailed the operation as a success. The president is spending the holidays at his Florida resort. Willie James Inman is traveling with the president. Good morning, Willie.
Meg, good morning to you. President Trump promised the U.S. would respond following that attack that killed 3 Americans. And now we're learning about that response, in which more than 70 targets were hit.
On Friday, the U.S. military conducted strikes against dozens of locations in Syria to take out threats posed by ISIS. U.S. Central Command described the operation as a massive strike and said it was a retaliatory attack.
It was very successful. It was precision. We hit every site flawlessly, and we are restoring peace through strength.
Last week, 2 American soldiers and a civilian interpreter were killed during an ambush attack by a lone ISIS gunman. In a post on Truth Social, the president warned against attacks on the U.S., writing, "You will be hit harder than you have ever been hit before if you in any way attack or threaten the USA." Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Operation Hawkeye Strike was aimed at eliminating ISIS targets, right?
While I was pissing in the bathroom, I found out that, yes, this one that we were looking at, the grand jury from the Southern District in New York, that is new. It was unredacted. This was one of the files, I think, that was previously completely blacked out. And this is now unredacted. So we'll go into it in a second. Let's finish this, though.
Today, we hunted and killed our enemies, lots of them, and we will continue. Meanwhile, President Trump was in North Carolina late Friday evening speaking directly to Americans about his record on the economy.
It's been the most successful first year of any president. I'm bringing the prices down, and I'm bringing them down fast.
The president's campaign-style event follows a primetime address from the White House in which he sought to defend his agenda. Some of the president's supporters who attended the event acknowledged prices are higher, but expressed optimism about the economy.
We're really trying to support the president's agenda and slowing down inflation, and I think we're on the right track. But
Bro, this is literally, that's it. These are some of the biggest cultists, okay? And even the biggest cultists are like, yeah, I think we're moving in the right direction, I assume. You know? I think it's on the right track. I hope it's on the right track. Understand something. The very fact that people who are basically fucking lobotomized into believing that Donald Trump can do no wrong, even those guys cannot simply believe that the economy is doing better when their pockets are fucking hurting. Okay? It's that simple. If you got these guys that are supposed to be in the pocket, okay? These guys that are supposed to be unconditionally and uncompromisingly defending Donald Trump, you got those guys singing a tune like this, it's fucking over, dude. It's Jover, brother. This is why I'm telling you, like, in the absence of things changing quick, which there's no indication that it will, and if things do change, it'll be for the worse, not for the better, specifically around the economy. A lot of these guys who are still trying to defend Donald Trump are going to turn on him. And we have to be there to pull them back. Okay? We have to be there to pull them back to reality.
still have a lot more work to do.
Now, this weekend marks the start of President Trump's holiday stay at his Florida home, Mar-a-Lago. Now, he says he'll be doing mostly work, and that could include a possible meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Adriana?
All right, Willie, thank you so much.
The U.S. Coast Guard is currently seizing a sanctioned vessel off the coast of Venezuela. That's according to ABC News sources. It's now the second vessel.
Oh, God. Here we go. But yeah, getting back to our pedophile administration, okay? Because remember, when people are telling you like, oh man, things are fucking surely really bad, right? This is your opportunity to ask them like, okay, banning transgenders from athletic competition, did that actually help you in any way? Did that, Israel's doing a genocide. Pedophiles are running all over the administration. Some of those pedophiles are linked up with Israel too, for the record. And your living standards have not improved. Your infrastructure is your infrastructure is in a dire state of disrepair. Seemingly all the money goes to unlimited warfare. Okay? But hey, you own the libs. You dunked on the transgenders, right? Did that help? We're now deporting random neighbors of ours, people in our communities that have done no wrong, really, because Trump told you that those guys are all violent criminals. Meanwhile, we know who the violent criminals are, right? They're the ones who are getting redacted in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Are things getting better for you? And if not, maybe it's time to seek out an alternative. Okay? Maybe it's time to look for an alternative vision. It's obvious that the Trump administration lied to you. Okay? It's that simple. And sometimes those lies are done at the behest of predators continuing to run amok. What is this? CIA and Mossad and pedo elite are running some kind of sex trafficking, entrapment, blackmail ring out of Puerto Rico and the Caribbean islands. They're going to frame me with a laptop planted by my ex-girlfriend who was a spy. They will torture me to death. What is this? He died? I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. Random cryptocurrency guy who could have died for other reasons. You know what I mean? Crypto-related reasons. Who could have been killed for crypto-related reasons rather than, finding the truth or something. I love that while I'm in the middle of covering these insane things that are happening with like the financial elite, okay? There's always still a dumbass being like, didn't you put to sleep with sex slaves in Berlin in 2010? Pot calling the kettle black. I went to a legal brothel that still operates as a legal brothel in 2010 when I was fucking 19 years old. The fuck are you talking about? You think these two things are in the same vein as one another, or are you trying to stop me from talking about Jeffrey Epstein with an idiotic misdirection? It kind of feels like you are not very sincere about your cause here. Kind of feels like you're defending pedophiles, you know? Why are you defending pedophilia and pedophiles of the financial elite by simply inventing a crime where no crime took place? In my case, why are pedos and billionaires defended so much? I don't know. Maybe they think they'll be super wealthy, super powerful pedophile billionaires one day. It's the same reason why people defend fucking billionaires in general. DOJ is removing searchable files. I mean, they never really fully made the file searchable anyway. And I don't know if that was just like broken and busted or something. I don't know. Could have been broken due to incompetence, or could have been deliberately created that way. Yeah. They constantly try to catch you out in some perceived hypocrisy while they're likely support some of the biggest hypocrites online. No, that's literally what it is. That's always what it is. It's a way to engage in hypocrisy fishing, to go, la, 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 I can't hear you. I have assumed you are hypocritical in your position and don't have a fully fleshed out worldview, and therefore I don't have to listen to you. Anyway, this is the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, Jane Doe proceeding under a pseudonym plaintiff v. Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. This is a different lawsuit, irrelevant to the Epstein release. I mean, or not relevant to this round of Epstein releases, I think. Were they just unredacted? No, I think they were unredacted. This was unredacted. This was previously all black. The Southern District of New York grand jury indictment. You were explaining earlier that redacted says she was approximately 14 when this began. Did she tell you about whether she had any conversations with Epstein about her age? Yes. What did she tell you? She said that she told him she was 14. Have you asked Jane Doe what Epstein's house was like? Yes. How did she describe it to you? She gave a lot of detail about the house. She talked about the office having a round desk in it. She talked about the massage room and had a massage table. It had lotions. It had moisturizers. On the walls, there were sketches or paintings of naked females on them. And she also talked about a library in his residence that looked like it was something from out of Beauty and the Beast. Is that how she described it to you? Yes. So we've been talking about what you've learned during interviews with Jane Doe. Just take a step back. How did you first establish contact with her? My partner and I located her at the residence. What did she say to you when you first approached her? She was very nervous when we first talked to her. And she told us that she was 16. She went and massaged Epstein, and he masturbated, and he didn't touch her. And again, what was her demeanor like when she said this to you? She was very nervous. And then this entire part is redacted. She was just very nervous while we were speaking with her. Were you able to conduct a full interview with her at that time? No. At a later point, were you able to conduct a full and thorough interview with her? Yes. Why she said that when you first approached her? Did you ask her that? Yes. What did she explain to you? She told us that she didn't even really remember what she had told us initially because she was so nervous. She was so worried. She was really concerned that if she talked to us that she was going to jail. So she was really worried about being in trouble. That's so sad, dude. Like, she's so young. She's so young that and so like so destroyed that she thinks she's in trouble. This is very common again in minors, like that she thinks she's doing something wrong. There come a point in time when Epstein asked Jane Doe to bring other girls to him. Yes, what happened? She did. She reached out to other girls that she knew to see their interest. I want to ask you a little bit about what Jane Doe's told you about her role in bringing other girls to Epstein. Let me first just ask in general, how would she find new girls? She would meet them through friends of friends. She met them in the clubs, different social settings. In general, what kinds of things would she tell them about what to expect? She told them that they would have to give a massage either with their underwear on or nude, that he would want his nipples touched, and that he would masturbate. Would she tell them anything about payment? Yes. What would she tell them? She'd tell them that they would get $300 for massaging him. This is why libertarians love talking about removing the age of consent, where they'll be like, well, the non-aggression principle has not been violated here. This is a contract. Did Jane Doe have a sense in general of the ages of the girls that she brought to Epstein? She estimated around 13, 14-year-olds to 17-year-olds. They were mostly underage girls that she brought. She did bring a couple that were 18. Approximately how long did she participate in bringing girls? 3 years that she went. So from 14 to 17. So approximately how old was she when this stopped? 17. During that period, over those 3 years approximately, did she have a sense about how many girls she brought over the years to Epstein's house? She approximately brought 20 to 50 girls. Did she work with anyone else in recruiting the girls for Epstein? Yes. Who did she work with? Another girl her age, also redacted. Who is redacted? She was a friend of Redacted's that was living with her at the time. Did Redacted provide you with this photograph? Yes. And what did she explain to you about this photograph? This is Redacted on the left, and that's the other Jane Doe on the right. They were approximately 16 years old at the time the picture was taken. And during this time period, around the time when this photograph was taken, when they were approximately 16, is that when they were working, recruiting girls for Epstein? Yes. So Jeffrey Epstein groomed one of the 14-year-olds, among, I assume, many others, into getting new victims of the same age range for approximately 3 years, from 14 to 17. Okay? There are slides that reference that were released alongside this. She would call who she believed was his, or she assumed was his assailant, a woman named Redacted. Why would she call? She would call Redacted and say, I have a girl who can work. This has to be Ghislaine Maxwell, right? Or I guess maybe, why would they fucking redact that? It can't be Ghislaine. It feels like it's definitely Ghislaine. She would call Redacted and say, I have a girl who can work, and they would schedule that appointment. In conversations with Redacted, it's how they refer to these massage sessions as work. Once session was scheduled, would Redacted go with the girl to the house? Yes. What would she do in general once she brought the girl to the house? So the first time she would take a girl, they would go to the residence, they'd wait in the office until they could be escorted upstairs. The first time she would go with the girl, she would go up with her so the girl felt comfortable and kind of knew what to do. Additional visits after that, she would wait downstairs while the girl did the massage upstairs. Also, Ghislaine participated in this as well, for the record, according to a victim testimony. Ghislaine also did the same stuff, where she would bring girls in, massage Jeffrey Epstein alongside the girls first, and would like accompany them. What? Accompanying slides? Are you sure? Because this is this is not New York. This is Palm Beach. I have a female for him. She has a female friend for you. Please call back as soon as possible. She will be here at 4 p.m., but she needs to talk to you before that. Please call her back. Her new phone number. Please call her. Trump's name is on page 10. Oh, Donald Trump. A memo, but nothing else. There's no message in there. Wow. He called to say how much he disagrees. Yeah, he called to shake his head. He didn't even say anything. He just shook his head and finger wagged. That's why there's no note in the memo. He just did this, you know? Over time, she noticed any pattern in the girls that Epstein seemed to like? She did. What did she notice? Did he like young, petite, natural girls? What does she mean by natural girls? That girls were under 18, weren't completely developed. Oh. Did she recall any particular expressions that Epstein would use to express his preferences when he was giving feedback about the girls? I'm sorry, say that again. In your conversations with Redacted, did she recall any particular expressions? Yeah. He would tell her, you know what I like. If she brought someone he didn't like, he'd be like, come on, you know what I like. What was her understanding of what that meant? She understood that meant girls who were under 18. Did Redacted tell you how much Epstein paid for her for recruiting other girls? Yes. How much? $300. That was for each new girl, or for every new session with a new girl when she brought her in. That was for each new girl in every session that she went with whatever girl. She would schedule the sessions through Redacted, would either contact her on her phone, or she would reach out to Redacted to say she could work. Anyway, I'm going to scroll through this stuff. Approximately how old was Redacted when this photograph was taken? Approximately 19. Based on her participation in the interviews with Redacted, have you learned where she was living when she was about 14 or 15? She was living with a friend of her. What was in the West Palm Beach area in Florida? Oh, was that in the West Palm Beach? Yeah, you mentioned that she was living with a friend. To be clear, she was living with her parents during that time. No, why not? She had a difficult home life. Again and again. It's always the same shit. It's always the same thing. Identifying victims with a rough home life and then having them bring in other additional victims as well from a similar background. If you were familiar with the Epstein investigation and the trial, you saw this as a pattern, okay? How did she respond when she heard that? She agreed to it. Did she end up going to Epstein's residence? Yes. How many times did she go to the residence? Approximately 60 times. Ever go there with her friends? Yes. About in 2002. All right. During these times, went to Epstein's residence in Palm Beach. Did she explain to you what would typically happen? And then this is basically the exact same testimony that other victims gave. I have another question. I've never heard anyone seen anything mention any men victims. Is it possible that there were 1,200 female victims and no one on the island ever wanted a male companion? Seems super strange that there's so many victims over so many years with so many abusers, only female victims. Actually, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. But the common ones that we do know, like the ones that we do know, are, and that's an interesting question for the record. I know that some chatters were yelling at you, but that is strange. I think there are male victims, but the most that have come out, that's false. There's 25 male victims. Yeah, there's definitely male victims, but the ones that are the ones that have come out and spoken out against Jeffrey Epstein, like openly state that they were victims of Jeffrey Epstein, have all been, like, all the high profile victims have been women. And yes, the overwhelming majority were sold her soul for $300 a person. Dog, the person you're talking about was literally groomed and raped as a child. Okay? Like, that's insane. Why do you think there's age of consent laws? Why do you think there is a mutual understanding that people under the age of 18 cannot consent? Because they're children. Okay? That's why the adult is the responsible party here. That's an insane thing to do. Is insane victim blaming. That's a child that was exploited to do this stuff. Chill. This is Alan Dershowitz's alt account. Yeah. How is that any different than saying that the 13-year-old was asking for it? You know what I mean? Which is unironically what Alan Dershowitz did say. Alan Dershowitz, in his defense in the 2008 case, quite literally mapped out a pattern of victim blaming and slut shaming for 13-year-old girls. It's such an insane thing to think about now. And it was fucked up even back then, and yet they did it. Isn't that crazy? That was a successful defense for Alan Dershowitz, a tenured Harvard professor, by the way. He called the 13 and 14-year-old girls slutty prostitutes that knew exactly what they were getting into. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Damn, this guy's good.